Chapter 138. In the middle of the night, Xiao Chan was sitting on a tree branch when he heard a weak murmur. He slowly descended from the tree and walked to Lung Liusu's side. Lung Liusu's pale face was covered in sweat. Her eyebrows were tightly knitted together, and her breathing was very rapid. It was clear that she was having a nightmare and was under a lot of pressure. Xiao Chan placed his hand on her forehead and slowly sent in a gentle stream of essence. Because Xiao Chan cultivated the purple thunder divine incantation, his essence had a trace of the effects of immortal qi. After a while, Lung Liusu's expression slowly turned gentle. Her breathing slowly stabilized and her eyebrows relaxed. Xiao Chan heaved a sigh of relief and stopped sending in his essence. He withdrew his hand and prepared to leave. Just as Xiao Chan released his hand, Lung Liusu grabbed it. Lung Liusu closed her eyes and seemed to be talking in her sleep. "Father, don't go. Don't leave Liusu behind." Her grip was very tight. Xiao Chan blushed with shame. He smiled bitterly in his heart. "Girl, you have mistaken me for someone else. Don't grab me so tightly." Xiao Chan did his best to pry her hand away. However, he discovered that if he did not use his essence, he would not be able to do so. Even if he used his essence, he was afraid of waking her up, so he could only sit down slowly. He did not dare to make any big movements. He could not even sleep or cultivate. He just stood guard at the side with his eyes wide open. The night sky was heavy in the quiet forest. One could not even see their fingers when they stretched out their hands. Xiao Chen sat beside Lung Liusu and listened to her steady breathing. He did not move at all and felt extremely bitter. When the sky was about to brighten, Xiao Chan finally felt Lung Liusu's grip loosen a little. He quickly struggled free. Xiao Chan checked Lung Liusu's internal injuries again and discovered that they were no longer a problem. She just needed to rest for a while. When Xiao Chan stood up, he felt his back aching. He had not slept for the entire night and was clearly fatigued. Xiao Chan patted his cheeks and looked to the east. He looked at the white sky and prepared to leave this place. "You unintentionally saved my life. Now, I have saved your life and even accompanied you for a night. We are even." Xiao Chun smiled gently as he looked at Lung Liusu. After taking 2 steps, he suddenly stopped, feeling as if he had lost something. He murmured, "Am I worse than a beast? You're a living example of a beautiful woman lying next to you for an entire night, yet you don't have any reaction at all. That's not right." Xiao Chen quickly retreated and looked at Lung Liusu's pretty face. He took a deep breath and quickly planted a kiss on her forehead. After that, he immediately dodged and rushed forward. Lung Liusu, who was in a deep sleep, did not react. When the sky brightened and the first ray of sunlight shone on her face, she slowly woke up. Lung Liusu opened her eyes slightly. She was not used to the piercing light. She looked at the jacket draped over her body and revealed a doubtful expression. "Did someone save me? Who could it be?" Before she fainted yesterday, the last image in Lung Liusu's mind was a bolt of lightning tearing through the sky. She could not remember anything else. She slowly stood up and placed the jacket she was wearing to the side. In the end, she discovered that her jacket was torn beyond recognition, revealing a lot of her skin. She could not help but blush. What surprised her was that the wound on her chest had miraculously healed in just one night. The wound had already scabbed over. Although there was still some numbness, it was clear that it was no longer a problem. Furthermore, it was treated in time. It would not leave any scars in the future. Who saved me? This person should not be from the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. Lung Liusu's heart was filled with questions. If he was, he would definitely be by my side, guarding me. Suddenly, she vaguely remembered the dream she had the night before. It seemed like she saw her deceased father appear beside her. She even held his hand and told him not to leave her. It felt like it was real. Lung Liusu took out a set of clothes from her spatial ring. After she changed, she suddenly discovered 2 bottles of medicinal pills on the ground. She bent over and picked them up. When she opened them, a dense medicinal fragrance wafted out. It was clear that these medicinal pills were of a very high grade. She picked up the slip of paper that introduced the medicinal pills and read it carefully. The suspicions in her heart grew stronger. Who was it that saved me? Furthermore, they arranged everything so meticulously. She walked around but did not discover anything. She could not help but feel disappointed. She lowered her head and leaned against the tree again. However, she was astonished to discover that there were indeed traces of someone sitting there. Furthermore, it was not for a short period of time. The Heavenly Saber Pavilion was one of the 3 great sects of the Great Qin Nation. It had been passed down since the Tianwu dynasty. It had been passed down for tens of thousands of years. In the hearts of the people of the Great Qin Nation, it was a holy land. As the name suggested, this was a sect that specialized in saber techniques. The martial techniques of the sect, be it movement techniques or mental cultivation techniques, were all related to saber techniques. It was a holy land for those who studied the saber. The Misty Sword sect was in the east and west, 1 saber and 1 sword. Since ancient times, the saber and the sword had never coexisted. The 2 sects had often fought in history, but the strength of the 2 sects had always been equal, and there was no clear winner. However, in recent years, the Heavenly Saber Pavilion had suffered from a mysterious disaster 20 years ago. Many of the experts of the older generation in the sect had died, resulting in their strength dropping significantly. Even so, no one dared to underestimate the strength of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. They had not lost the martial techniques that had been passed down for tens of thousands of years. The system was still there. Sooner or later, they would reach the peak. It was located in the Lingyun mountain range, one of the 4 great mountain ranges in the Great Qin Nation. There were 7 large peaks on the mountain, and it was one of the places with the most abundant spiritual energy in the Great Qin Nation. If a cultivator cultivated here all year round, their cultivation would advance much faster than elsewhere. Furthermore, the Heavenly Saber Pavilion had a perfect martial technique system and countless cultivation resources. As a result, the number of people joining the Heavenly Saber Pavilion was always full every year. At the foot of the Lingyun mountain range, there was a city no smaller than White City, called Saber City. Saber City was a city that belonged directly to the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. The land, shops, auction houses, and exchanges all belonged to the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. Saber City was also known as the outer sect of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. Every year, the inner sect of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion would have 1 month to recruit disciples with outstanding talent to enter the inner sect. If one missed this 1 month, they would not have the opportunity to enter the inner sect of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. They could only take the test in the outer sect. There would be an opportunity to advance every half a year. Even the outer sect was not a place that just anyone could enter. Those who had not become a martial master before the age of 15 would not even have the opportunity to take the test. The threshold for the outer sect was already so high. It was easy to imagine how strict the requirements for the inner sect of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion were. Even so, there would still be a large number of bladesmen entering this place every year. This was already the holy land of all bladesmen. As a bladesman, if they did not go to Saber City, if they did not attempt the famous Heavenly Saber Morning Soul Formation, if they did not meet the famous bladesmen who lived here, it would be a great regret for them. After Xiao Chun and Lung Liusu parted for half a month, they finally arrived at the famous Saber City. Because they had been wrongly accused along the way, they had wasted a lot of time. Saber City was already in sight. There were many cultivators carrying large sabers on their backs. Some of them carried several sabers on their backs. Xiao Chun even saw a few earth-rank spirit weapons. Before he entered Saber City, he could already feel the atmosphere, the feelings of bladesmen for the saber. In this place, if you did not carry a saber, you would be embarrassed to walk on the road. This was because when Xiao Chun walked on the road empty-handed, he was looked down upon. Everyone looked at him with a strange expression. There were even some extreme bladesmen who thought that he was being disrespectful to Saber City. Their gazes revealed killing intent. Xiao Chun felt very depressed. For the sake of convenience in combat, Xiao Chun did not equip the Lunar Shadow Saber with a scabbard. If he took out the Lunar Shadow Saber now, it would be too inconvenient. In the end, Xiao Chun could not stand the gazes of this group of people. He prepared to equip the Lunar Shadow Saber with a scabbard before entering Saber City. Before entering the city, he was already being looked down upon. If he entered the city, he was afraid that someone would challenge him to a duel. On the two sides of Saber City, there were countless weapon shops. There were several sabers placed in front of these weapon shops. Xiao Chun asked around and found out that as long as one was strong enough to pick up one of these sabers, they would be able to obtain the saber for free. When Xiao Chun heard this, he smiled faintly and said, "This is interesting. I wonder how many sabers I can pick up with my physical strength." However, Xiao Chun did not have the time or interest to do so. He casually walked into a weapon shop and looked around. The shop only had sabers. There were no other weapons. There were all sorts of sabers: horse chopping sabers, horizontal sabers, padeos, long sabers, thick sabers, and some sabers that Xiao Chun did not know the names of. This was an eye-opener for Xiao Chun. What was even more surprising was that these sabers all had some moonstone in them. They were all spirit weapons. There were even some profound rank spirit weapons. This was truly shocking. An ordinary shop outside of Saber City actually had so many spirit weapons for sale. Here, spirit weapons were like goods sold at street stalls. There were not many people in the shop. Business was very quiet. Xiao Chun looked around for a while, and an idea popped up in his mind. There were so many spirit weapons here. If he casually bought a few and sold them, he would be able to make a huge profit. Xiao Chun looked at the shop owner and asked, "Boss, how much are the sabers here?" The shop owner was an old man in his 70s. His skinny face was filled with wrinkles, but he did not look lethargic. He gave off a very spirited feeling. The old man sized up Xiao Chun and smiled warmly. "You have not obtained the qualifications to enter the outer sect, right? In that case, you do not have the qualifications to purchase them." Xiao Chun was stunned. He did not expect there to be such a rule. He felt like he had been seen through. He smiled awkwardly. "I wonder if I can customize a scabbard?" The old man smiled. "That is possible. Take out your saber and let me take a look." This old man's attitude was very gentle, making people feel at ease. Xiao Chun did not hesitate and took out the Lunar Shadow Saber and handed it over to the old man. The old man held the Lunar Shadow Saber in his hand and gently caressed it. His expression did not change as he smiled gently. "This is a good saber. I have not seen such a saber in many years. The arc of the saber is somewhere between a katana and a horizontal saber. The control of the flow is near perfect." Chapter 139. It takes into account both the strength and beauty of the saber. It is close to 2 meters long. Without a certain level of skill, one would not dare to forge this saber. It should be the work of a famous person. It has the style of the Haotian sect. Xiao Chun was surprised. He did not expect this old man to be able to guess so much just from the saber. However, the Haotian sect had already become a taboo topic. If this old man wanted to test him, Xiao Chun might get into trouble. Senior must be joking. The Haotian sect has already been destroyed for such a long time. How could my saber have the style of the Haotian sect? Xiao Chun denied. The old man handed the Lunar Shadow Saber to Xiao Chun and smiled faintly. "Young man, don't be in a rush to deny anything. I have not confirmed anything yet. You need to remain calm so that you can hide yourself better. If you're in a rush to deny it, you will be exposed even faster." Although the Haotian sect was destroyed, the number of weapons they passed down is still very large. You don't have to worry about this. This old man does not care about these things. Xiao Chun was startled. He received the Lunar Shadow Saber and looked at the old man's warm smile again. He felt a chill run down his spine. He was unfathomable. He smiled embarrassedly. "Many thanks for Senior's teachings. I wonder how long this scabbard will take to complete?" It is just a smelly old man. It is just that he has lived for a long time. It cannot be said to be teachings. "I have a ready-made scabbard for your saber." After the old man spoke, he took out a dusty scabbard from the cabinet and wiped it gently. The old man's expression was very solemn. It was as though it was not a scabbard, but something he loved the most. After a while, an extremely ancient-looking scabbard appeared before Xiao Chun in its entirety. Xiao Chun received the scabbard. He shook it, and the Lunar Shadow Saber entered the scabbard perfectly. The lunar shadow saber instantly disappeared after it entered the scabbard. If not for Xiao Chan holding it in his hand, he would not have been able to feel its existence. The old man revealed a smile. Xiao Chen's face was filled with shock. How could this be a coincidence? This scabbard was simply made for the lunar shadow saber. There was nothing strange about it all. It was like it had been waiting there quietly for countless years, waiting for the lunar shadow saber to arrive. Xiao Chun recovered from his shock. Although he felt strange, he was very satisfied with this scabbard. He asked, "How much is this scabbard worth?" 10 inferior grade spirit stones. Xiao Chun was stunned for a while. Then, he smiled and said, "Senior, did you say it wrong, or did I hear it wrong? 10 inferior grade spirit stones is enough to purchase a superior grade, profound rank spirit weapon. How can a scabbard be so expensive? Don't you think it's not worth it?" "Young man, this price is really not expensive at all. Feel it carefully. Don't you feel anything different?" The old man's expression did not change at all. He had a faint smile on his face as he spoke indifferently. Xiao Chun thought hatefully, "This guy's really old and cunning. It's like he's going to eat me alive." Although 10 inferior grade spirit stones was not much to Xiao Chun, it was not something he could casually take out. He had only obtained 20 inferior grade spirit stones from Yin Xinyan's body. In the end, Xiao Chun still handed the 10 inferior grade spirit stones to him. He really liked this scabbard and did not want to miss it. "Young man, since the saber is already sheathed, don't casually draw it out. If anyone in the Heavenly Saber Pavilion finds out that you possess the Thunder King's inheritance, you will die a miserable death." When Xiao Chun, who had already reached the door, heard this, he suddenly stopped. Cold sweat broke out on his back as he slowly turned around. There was a trace of killing intent in Xiao Chen's eyes as he stared at the smiling old man. His right hand grasped the saber hilt, preparing to draw it at any moment. "Old man, you seem to know too much." Xiao Chen focused all his attention on the old man. His heart was filled with shock. The Thunder King's inheritance was his greatest secret. This secret was even more important than the Blue Dragon martial spirit. The Thunder King had made too many enemies in his life. In his later years, he mysteriously disappeared and finally fell. This left too many questions for the future generations. This old man only took a glance at the lunar shadow saber and discovered Xiao Chen's identity. This was truly shocking. If the secret of him possessing the Thunder King's inheritance was exposed, he would not be strong enough, and he did not have an invincible backer. It would not be that he did not have a place in the great Qi nation. The entire world would kill him for his treasures. The experts of the older generation would not be able to resist the temptation to make a move. Facing Xiao Chen's undisguised killing intent, the old man's expression did not change. He smiled faintly and said, "Little friend, it seems like you do not respect the old and cherish the young. This is not good." Dang! As soon as the old man finished speaking, the doors in the shop swayed and closed. The moment the doors closed, the space in the shop instantly darkened. Xiao Chun looked around and was horrified to discover that the surrounding shelves seemed to have disappeared. When he looked around, there was only a boundless darkness. He could not see the end. "Kassiye." Xiao Chun drew his saber, and a cold light flashed on the pitch-black blade of the lunar shadow saber. There was a flash of saber light as he executed drawing the saber. Xiao Chun leaped into the air. He decided to make the first move and attack the old man. The old man's expression did not change as he stood in front of him. However, Xiao Chun felt that the distance between him and the old man was worlds apart. Xiao Chun maintained his posture in the air, holding his saber and leaping into the air. It was like he had crossed a great distance. However, the distance between him and the old man did not close at all. The old man was clearly in front of Xiao Chun, but it felt like he was even further away than the horizon, as if there was no end. This place actually materialized a small world. Furthermore, it was a small world that could be controlled. When Xiao Chun saw the old man's expressionless face, he was extremely astonished. Could this old man be a sage? Go out and calm down. In the future, you have to learn to respect the old and cherish the young. The old man waved his long sleeves gently, and an irresistible force pushed Xiao Chen back. Xiao Chen's speed was extremely fast. The sound of the wind whistled in his ears. Bang! It was as if Xiao Chen had traversed through countless planes. With a loud boom, he landed on the ground. When he raised his head to take a look, he discovered himself. When he looked up, he discovered that he was lying on the street. There were people coming and going around him, looking at Xiao Chen strangely. After being looked at like a fool, Xiao Chen quickly got up and checked his body. He discovered that he was not injured at all. It was clear that the old man had held back. Materializing a small world and grasping the laws of space, these were abilities that only sages could have. Was that old man really a sage? Xiao Chen felt that it was impossible. This was because the aura that this old man gave him was not much stronger than Yu's. At best, he was only a martial monarch. He was definitely not a martial sage. Xiao Chen extended out his spiritual sense and closed his eyes. He extended his spiritual sense into the old man's shop. A strong aura appeared in his mind. After a while, Xiao Chen discovered the source of that aura. It was a rectangular wooden box in the shop. When Xiao Chen tried to extend his spiritual sense into the wooden box, he discovered a formless barrier blocking his spiritual sense. Xiao Chen did not give up and tried a few more times. However, he failed every time. Finally, he focused his spiritual sense on the old man's body. Xiao Chen raised his eyebrows. He discovered an incomparably shocking phenomenon. Withdrawing his spiritual sense, Xiao Chen muttered to himself, "This person does not have a martial spirit in his body." However, the aura he gave off clearly indicated that he was once a martial king expert. If that was the case, there could only be one reason. This expert had been severely injured by someone. His martial spirit was destroyed, and he became a cripple. Even so, Xiao Chen was still fearful of the old man. If that wooden box did not contain a complete holy weapon, it would be a king great attack type secret treasure. Within the shop, the old man was an undefeatable existence. Xiao Chen shook his head. Since the old man did not have any ill intentions, there was no need for him to continue pestering him. After turning around and leaving, Xiao Chen still could not calm down. There are so many shops outside of Saber City. Could there be such experts hidden in all of them? With this thought in mind, Xiao Chen unknowingly walked into another shop. The owner of the shop was a middle-aged man. Xiao Chen's eyes lit up like torches as he stared at this person. He wanted to see if there was anything different about him. "Little brother, are you looking to buy something?" The middle-aged man asked with a trembling voice after being stared at by Xiao Chen. Hearing this, Xiao Chen recovered his wits. He felt that it was a pity. This person was really just an ordinary shop owner. There was nothing special about him. However, how should he answer the shop owner's question? That was a problem. After all, he already knew that the spirit weapons here would not be sold to outsiders. Xiao Chen thought for a while and decided to ask about Long Tianyue. After all, he had already committed a heinous crime by assassinating Long Liusu. He asked in a probing manner, "I want to ask around. Did anything big happen in Saber City recently?" The middle-aged man looked at Xiao Chen meaningfully and said, "If you want to talk about big things, there are big things happening in Saber City every day. There is nothing strange about that. However, something startling did happen a few days ago." The shop owner stopped talking. Xiao Chen understood tacitly and handed over a banknote. The shop owner received it and casually glanced at it. He discovered it was a banknote for 10,000 silver taels. The shop owner could not help but reveal a joyful expression. He beamed with joy and said, "A few days ago, the first young master of Lingyun Mountain Range's Tianyue Peak, Lung Tianyue, returned from outside and barged into the Heavenly Saber Morning Soul Formation." Indeed, it was about Lung Tianyue. Xiao Chen could not help but ask out of curiosity, why did he go to the Heavenly Saber Morning Soul Formation? The shop owner chuckled and said, "Why? Of course, it was to draw the saber. There is a rumor in the Heavenly Saber Pavilion that has been passed down for thousands of years. As long as one barges into the Heavenly Saber Morning Soul Formation and draws the subdivine weapon, they can immediately become the Pavilion Master of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion." Then did he draw it? Xiao Chun asked interestedly. He did not expect there to be such a thing in the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. This was very surprising. If someone from the Misty Sword sect managed to draw this saber, would they become the pavilion master of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion? Just thinking about it was interesting. The middle-aged boss sighed and said, "That's a secondary heavenly weapon, second only to heavenly weapons in the world. It can split mountains and rocks, shake the sky, and even sages have to avoid it. How can it be pulled out so easily?" Furthermore, the Heavenly Saber Morning Soul Formation has 81 small formations. They are all interconnected, forming a large formation. It has existed since the ancient era. If one wants to pass through it, not only does one need a cultivation realm, they also need an understanding of saber techniques. Chapter 140. How could he, a peak martial grandmaster, barge in? He was trapped in the 7th formation and was eventually rescued by his father. Xiao Chen's interest was completely piqued. He quickly asked, "Then what happened after that?" The boss was somewhat confused about what happened after that. He said, "I only heard about what happened after that. Lung Tianyue seemed to have done something wrong. His father wanted to lock him up. In the end, he crippled his own cultivation and took the initiative to lock himself up in Heavenly Saber Pavilion Saber Prison." When he heard this news, Xiao Chun heaved a sigh of relief. Although he did not know why Lung Tianyue locked him up in Saber Prison, it was good enough that he did not have to meet him. Holding the Lunar Shadow Saber, Xiao Chun headed straight for Saber City. After a while, he arrived at the city gates and started to pay the entrance tax. The method of paying the entrance tax here made Xiao Chun feel astonished. The amount of the tax was actually determined by the weight of the saber the cultivator was carrying. No matter how many sabers you had, no matter what grade they were, how heavy they were, you would have to pay the tax. The saber itself weighs 85 kilograms. The scabbard weighs 70 kilograms. In total, it weighs 155 kilograms. Little brother, you have to pay 1155 silver taels as entrance tax. The two cultivators guarding the gates removed Xiao Chen's lunar shadow saber from a scale. They smiled as they spoke to Xiao Chun. Xiao Chun sweated profusely in his heart. This was extraordinarily expensive. When he saw a brother carrying 7 sabers on his back, he felt even more depressed. He had to pay 10,000 silver taels. However, Xiao Chun still had to pay up. He had no other choice. After he paid up, he left. After paying, the guards asked Xiao Chun a few questions and recorded his place of birth, name, and age. After that, they handed a form to Xiao Chun and said, "Go to the side and make an identity token. In the future, you will not have to pay the entrance tax when entering Saber City with this identity token." Xiao Chun smiled gently. "Fortunately, I don't have to pay every time. Otherwise, I would have to deduct all of my assets." The processing of the identity card was relatively simple. After handing in the form and waiting for half an hour, the other party delivered a wooden card. The front side of the card was engraved with Xiao Chen's information, and the back side was engraved with a long saber and a mountain peak. After tying the wooden token to his waist, Xiao Chun finally entered the famous Saber City. The streets of the city were densely packed with cultivators carrying sabers. An arena could be seen every few hundred meters, and every arena was crowded with people. It was very lively. The martial heaven continent's love for martial arts had reached its pinnacle. Aside from being filled with bladesmen and having many arenas, Saber City was not much different from other cities. Xiao Chen inquired about the location of the City Lord's mansion and quickly walked towards it. The City Lord of Saber City was appointed by the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. He managed the entire outer sect of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. The position of the City Lord in the sect was second only to those peak masters. He also had a seat in the Elders' Assembly. At the entrance of the City Lord's mansion, Xiao Chun handed the recommendation letter that Feng Feishue gave him to the guard. The red recommendation letter had the Feng clan seal and emblem on it, as well as Feng Feishue's signature. The guard's eyes were pretty good. He was able to tell the authenticity of the recommendation letter very quickly. He told Xiao Chun to wait for a while he went to report the matter. Not long after, that person quickly ran over. He smiled apologetically and said, "Brother, The city lord is currently meeting with an important guest. You might have to wait for a while. Come with me to the side hall to rest first." The attitude of the city lord's mansion was very humble. Xiaoqin did not feel that he was an important person. He smiled faintly and followed the person into the city lord's mansion with a relaxed expression. After passing through a few courtyards and gardens, Xiaoqin was brought to the side hall. The guard immediately took his leave, leaving Xiaoqin there alone. Xiaoqin waited for a long time. In the reception hall of the city lord's mansion, Saber City's city lord, Gu Yunbin, sat on a wooden chair. Separated by a tea table was an old man. He looked at Xiaoqin's recommendation letter with an unhappy expression. Behind the two of them stood a youth about 16 or 17 years old. He carried a saber on his back and had a gloomy expression on his face. Occasionally, there would be a trace of hostility in his eyes. The old man placed the recommendation letter on the table and faced Gu Yunbin. He said in a deep voice, "Old Gu, we already agreed on this a week ago. Why did you change your mind at the last minute?" Gu Yunbin smiled faintly. "Old Zhang, don't make things difficult for me. Why don't you take a look at who gave me the recommendation letter? There is Miss Feng's signature on it. I cannot give Miss Feng face." The Heavenly Saber Pavilion and the Feng clan have worked together for hundreds of years. They're the ones who provide the materials for the spirit weapons and battle armor in and out of the city. The most important thing is that they are the ones who handle the spirit stones produced by the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. The Feng clan has the authority to recommend people. It was not me who said it. It was the previous pavilion master who said it. Furthermore, this old man also owes Miss Feng a favor. This time, I can return it to her. When old Zhang heard this, he took out a jade bottle with a flip of his palm. He gently opened the bottle cap, and a dense medicinal fragrance instantly spread out. When one smelled it, they felt refreshed and refreshed. Gu Yunbin's expression changed slightly. He asked, "Old Zhang, is this the Immortal Cloud Life Extending Pill?" Old Zhang revealed a proud expression and said indifferently, "That's right, it is the rank 7 Immortal Cloud Life Extending Pill. After consuming it, it can extend one's lifespan by 20 years. Originally, I intended to give it to old Gu after the matter was over." Gu Yunbin smiled bitterly and said, "Old Zhang, why do you have to do this? With your grandson's talent, as long as he stays in the outer sect for half a year, he will definitely have the opportunity to enter the inner sect. Furthermore, this old man will definitely take care of him. There will be no lack of spirit stones, medicinal pills, and martial techniques." Old Zhang looked at the youth beside him and said, "There is no need to say much about Yior's talent. However, half a year is too long. He has already wasted 16 years. I do not wish for him to waste any more time." Gu Yunbin got up and started pacing around the hall. He had a conflicted expression on his face. After a while, he finally made up his mind. He said, "I will think of a way. First, I will set up a mission to test this person. If this person does not have any ability, then forget it. If he cannot pass, I will arrange for him to enter the outer sect first. The spot in Tianyue Peak will be reserved for your son. Wait here for a while." After Gu Yunbin spoke, he headed to the side hall. After Gu Yunbin left, old Zhang immediately got up and went to the door. He called an old man over and explained the situation to him. Finally, he instructed, "I do not wish for anything unexpected to happen. Whether Zhang Yi can enter the inner sect of Heavenly Saber Pavilion will affect the position of our Zhang clan in Yunyang City for the next few hundred years. When that person comes out later, keep an eye on him. If he does not complete it, then it is fine. However, if he does, you should know what to do, right?" This old man was a medial grade martial saint. After he heard it, he said indifferently, "Clan head, please rest assured. There will not be any problems with such a small matter." In the side hall, just as Xiaoqin's patients ran out, there was the sound of footsteps. The door to the side hall opened, and an old man over 70 years old walked in with great strides. As he walked, he gave off an imposing aura. Xiaoqin extended his spiritual sense and was actually unable to sense the strength of this person. It was like his spiritual sense had sunk into the vast ocean. It was unfathomable. He could not help but feel astonished. When Gu Yunbin saw Xiaoqin, he smiled gently and said, My apologies, my apologies. I have something to do and have made little brother wait. Please don't take offense. As he spoke, he sized up Xiao Chun. When his gaze landed on Xiao Chen's body, Xiao Chun felt like he had been completely seen through. He could no longer keep any secrets. However, Xiao Chun did not panic. He had just seen a fake sage. This situation was nothing compared to what he had seen earlier. Xiao Chun stood up and performed a cup fist salute. He said respectfully, "Greetings, senior. As a junior, there is no harm in waiting." Gu Yunbin nodded to himself. Although Xiao Chun was only a superior grade martial master, he was able to remain calm and courteous under Gu Yunbin's aura. This was quite rare. Gu Yunbin gestured for Xiao Chun to sit down. He smiled and said, "This old man is Gu Yunbin. If you do not mind, you can call me Old Gu. I have not asked for little brother's name yet." Yi Chun, Yi as in leaves, Chun as in birth. Yi Chun was Xiao Chen's current alias. The name Xiao Chun was currently wanted by the Yin clan, even in Shihe province. It was not good to use it directly. Gu Yunbin said politely again, "Yi Chun, I have seen Miss Feng's recommendation letter. Her words speak highly of you. I will definitely give Miss Feng face." However, the inner sect of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion is the backbone of the entire Heavenly Saber Pavilion. It cannot be mixed in. I will have to test your strength in the end. Xiao Qin thought very quickly. He muttered, "Old Gu, if you have something to say, just say it." Yi Chun is not a pretentious person. When Gu Yunbin heard this, he was stunned. He smiled and said, "It has been a long time since a junior dared to speak to me like this. In that case, I will say it directly. I have a mission for you. If you can pass it, I will give you a chance to enter the inner sect. If you cannot, then go to the outer sect and temper yourself first. How about that?" Xiao Chen did not think too much about it. He had missed the opportunity to enter the inner sect. Originally, he had intended to enter the Heavenly Saber Pavilion through the outer sect. It was only because of Feng Feishue's recommendation letter that he had this opportunity. Even if he could not pass it, there was no loss. Without any hesitation, Xiao Chun agreed to Gu Yunbin's request under his somewhat surprised gaze. He did not try to bargain at all. Gu Yunbin smiled and said, "I am gratified that you have such a mentality. However, I hope you do not get careless. The difficulty of the mission I am giving you is the same as the outer sect's end-of-year exam. The back door I open for you will only save you half a year. Kill a rank 5 spirit beast at will in the Evil Wind Valley outside the city. In order to prevent cheating, bring the spirit beast's corpse back. I will check it personally." After Gu Yunbin spoke, he handed Xiao Chen some information about the Evil Wind Valley. Xiao Chen received it and did not look at it on the spot. He immediately took his leave and left the city lord's residence. After Xiao Chen found an independent courtyard in Saber City, he started to look through the information that Gu Yunbin handed him carefully. Evil Wind Valley was located to the west of Saber City. The cold chi there was extremely heavy. Most of the spirit beasts there were ice attributed. It was a place where the outer sect disciples would temper themselves. A rank 5 spirit beast was equivalent to a human martial saint. Aside from their intelligence and agility being slightly lower than humans, their pure strength could only be higher. After Xiao Chun took a look, he tossed the information onto the table. There was very little information. It was not very helpful. Chapter 141. With Xiao Chen's strength as a superior grade martial master, it would be extremely difficult for him to kill a rank 5 spirit beast. His chances of success were close to 0. Is the threshold of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion's inner sect really that high? Xiao Chan frowned slightly. He had some doubts in his heart. If he were to carry out such a mission, it would not be an exaggeration to describe it as having a 90% chance of survival. Xiao Chun sighed and held the lunar shadow saber in his hand. With a huang-dang sound, he slowly drew the saber. A cold light flashed on the pitch-black blade. The sharp blade could slice through hair. Xiao Chun gently stroked the blade of the saber. A pretty figure appeared in his mind. He thought of everything that person had done for him. His gaze slowly turned resolute as he muttered, "No matter the reason you sealed yourself, I will do my best to wake you up. I will not make you cry again in this lifetime. Even if I have to give up my life, I will not hesitate. This is a promise. From the moment he held the lunar shadow saber in his hand and obtained the inheritance of the Thunder King, he had to keep this promise for life. Kassier. Shao Chun sheathed the lunar shadow saber once again. He took out the dragon seizing hands manual that he obtained from Yin Qianyun's body from the universe ring and started reading it. This was an earth-ranked martial technique that required an inherited martial spirit to learn. It was similar to Shao Chun's dragon subduing slash. However, Shao Chun had the Battle Sage Origins changing character formula. An inherited martial spirit would not be a hindrance to him. In a situation where a heaven-ranked martial technique did not appear, an earth-ranked martial technique was definitely the strongest martial technique in the world. Furthermore, an inherited earth-ranked martial technique from a noble clan with an innate bloodline would be even stronger. This dragon seizing hands was much stronger than the ancient martial technique that Shao Chun obtained in the ancient remnant. Shao Chun looked at it carefully for half a night and comprehended something in his heart. Pusi. Shao Chun suddenly made his move. He circulated the changing character formula and the dragon seizing hands at the same time. Shao Chun shouted and smashed his right hand forward. A giant black hand appeared, and with a bang, the stone table in the courtyard was smashed into pieces. The stone fragments danced wildly in the air and shot out. Shao Chun withdrew his hand and revealed a faint smile on his face. Using the Battle Sage Origin to evolve, it was indeed more efficient and easier to succeed. In the courtyard, Shao Chun started to experiment continuously. Aside from the dragon seizing hand, there was also Ji Changkong's astral sword technique, Hua Yunfei's bloody massacre sword technique, and Duan Yuking's inherited martial technique. They were all modified using the changing character formula. In the end, he discovered that although he could execute these martial techniques, after trying them a few times, they exhausted too much essence. He could not easily execute them. Only this dragon seizing hand, with a martial technique in hand and a clear understanding of its circulation path, would require less essence to execute. Such a martial technique had value in actual combat. After his essence was exhausted, Shao Chun did not enter a state of cultivation to absorb spiritual energy. Instead, he took out an inferior grade spirit stone and absorbed it completely. His essence instantly returned to its peak state. After Shao Chun completely absorbed the energy in the spirit stone, the pool of clear water in his dantian grew noticeably larger. This was a pleasant surprise. Shao Chun smiled faintly and said, "No wonder everyone likes spirit stones. This thing is very useful to cultivators. Furthermore, it does not have any side effects. In the future, I have to absorb one every day. I can't just leave it lying around." Only a person like Shao Chun, who wanted to gain something without risking anything, would say such words without feeling any heartache. Even the disciples of noble clans would not dare to be so extravagant. After Shao Chun recovered his spiritual energy, he continued practicing the dragon seizing hand. His spiritual energy was completely exhausted. Shao Chun directly used the spirit stone to recover his essence, not wasting any time at all. After a while, when Shao Chun had used the dragon seizing hand a few hundred times, he discovered some small tricks that he did not know about in other martial techniques. When the huge hand attacked the enemy, he could make the huge hand move accordingly. This way, its might would be even stronger. After discovering this trick, Shao Chun was incomparably excited. He practiced from sunrise until the sky turned dark. Shao Chun could use the dragon seizing hand skillfully. He made a clenched fist motion, retracting and releasing it effortlessly. Aside from the changing character formula, the main reason why Shao Chun was able to reach such a level in one day was because of the pile of spirit stones on the ground that no longer had any luster. The spirit stones that Yin Qianyun originally needed to use for half a year were used up by Shao Chun in one day. It was unknown what expression Yin Qianyun would have if he knew about this. As the sun rose in the east, Shao Chun woke up from his deep sleep. After washing up, Shao Chun took out the horn of the infant golden lion that he had obtained in Savage Forest and started carving it. Shao Chun did not dare to be careless when challenging a martial saint spirit beast. After thinking for a while, Xiao Chun decided to carve the Golden Lion King sculpture. Without Yu Ying's dragon Qi, the might of Princess Yingyu's sculpture will be much lower. On the other hand, if Xiao Chun used the Golden Lion horn to carve the Golden Lion King, it would be much easier to control. This time, he was not as rushed as the previous time. He could only carve as he walked. Xiao Chun was very meticulous in his carving. The fine hairs on the surface of the sculpture could be seen clearly. After a while, a lifelike Golden Lion King sculpture was completed. Xiao Chun smiled faintly and placed it in his universe ring. Then, he took out an ink bottle and poured the blood of the golden holy beast into it. Then, he gently sliced his palm, allowing the essence blood in his body to merge with it. Xiao Chun wanted to carve a new talisman. Under the situation where his cultivation realm had not increased, he could only increase the quality of the materials in order to increase the might of the talisman. The Golden Lion King contained the bloodline of an ancient golden holy beast. It was much stronger than the blood of a regular spirit beast. If he used it to carve a new talisman, its might would definitely increase by half. After the essence blood and the golden holy beast blood were completely merged together, Xiao Chun took out a brush and paper. He focused all his attention and started to carve, stroke by stroke. A faint golden light spread out from the tip of the brush. Xiao Chun drew very slowly, but he did not pause at all. As he moved up and down, it was very natural. The connection was perfect. In the end, he completed it in one breath. He successfully inscribed a rank 3 lightning-attributed talisman. After wiping the sweat off his forehead, Xiao Chun took a deep breath. Carving talismans was the most tiring thing. When one was highly focused, one could not afford to be careless. If one was not steady, the talisman would immediately go to waste. Furthermore, this would exhaust a lot of essence. Xiao Chun rested for a while before continuing to carve. He continued to carve more than 20 talismans in a row. His luck was not good for the last few. Most of them failed. His success rate was only 50%. After the essence in his body was completely exhausted, Xiao Chun took out an inferior grade spirit stone. After a while, essence immediately filled his entire body. The clear spring in his dantian swelled up again. He was now a peak superior grade martial master. As long as Xiao Chun was willing, he could become a martial grandmaster at any time. This was the wondrous use of spirit stones. After everything was prepared, Xiao Chun quickly walked out of the city. He removed the wooden token from his waist and showed it to the guards at the city gates. There were no obstructions as he left the city. Evil Wind Valley was a very suitable place for outer disciples to train. There were many outer disciples forming groups at the western city gates. A few of them even invited Xiao Chun to go with them. Xiao Chun smiled faintly and rejected them. His mission could only be completed by himself. If there were other injuries on the spirit beast's corpse, he would fail the mission. There were many people going to Evil Wind Valley. Xiao Chun casually chose a group and followed behind. He did not have to worry about losing his way. Everyone moved very quickly. They arrived outside of Evil Wind Valley in an hour. What made Xiao Chun somewhat surprised was that the outside of Evil Wind Valley was different from what he had imagined. The outside was like a marketplace. There were stalls set up everywhere. The stalls were very simple. There was a layer of ragged cloth on the ground. All sorts of herbs, spirit beast spirit cores, and flesh were displayed on the cloth. These people were all wearing the uniform of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion's outer disciples. Occasionally, there would be peddlers coming over to haggle. The scene was very bustling and noisy, selling the most complete map of Evil Wind Valley. The locations of all sorts of spirit beasts and herbs are marked. The lowest price here, definitely the lowest price here. A loud shout attracted Xiao Chun's attention. A map of Evil Wind Valley. Coincidentally, this was something he urgently needed. Xiao Chun walked over unhurriedly. He did not reveal any signs of impatience. This was a small trick when buying things. One must not let the other party see through one's true intentions. The stall owner was a young man wearing the uniform of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion's outer disciples. When he saw Xiao Chun, he quickly greeted him warmly. Xiao Chun took the map from him and looked at it carefully. After a while, he asked, Why is there no mark on this map of the location of a rank 5 spirit beast? The young stall owner smiled and said, "You should be new here. There are no fixed locations for rank 5 spirit beasts in Evil Wind Valley. Furthermore, no outer disciple would dare to provoke a rank 5 spirit beast. Isn't that just seeking death?" The outer disciples would not provoke a rank 5 spirit beast. Why was it different from what Gu Yunbin said? Xiao Chun put down the map and asked, "Didn't you say that the end-of-year exam for outer disciples is to kill a rank 5 spirit beast?" The stall owner revealed an astonished expression. "How can that be? The end-of-year exam is normally based on the number of rank 4 spirit beasts you kill. Once you reach a certain standard, you will pass. This number changes every year, depending on the spirit beast. However, no matter how much it changes, I have never heard of any end-of-year exam requiring you to kill a rank 5 spirit beast. Isn't that just sending yourself to death? Even if it is an inner disciple, if they meet a rank 5 spirit beast, the sect instructs them to stay as far away as possible." "Old bastard, you actually dared to lie to me," Xiao Chun cursed in his heart. He had not expected that this Gu Yunbin, who looked like a senior expert, would actually come up with such a vicious plan, trying to kill him. "Brother, I think you might have been tricked by someone. The strength of a rank 5 spirit beast is comparable to a martial saint. How can we be a match for it? I advise you not to act rashly." That person said out of goodwill. Xiao Chen's expression did not change. He smiled faintly and said, "I was just speaking casually. Thank you for the reminder, brother. I am called Yi Chun. May I know your name?" "Lu Chun, an outer disciple of Heavenly Saber Pavilion." Xiao Chun looked around at the other stall owners who were also outer disciples. He asked, "Brother Lu Chun, why are there so many people setting up stalls outside of Evil Wind Valley? Why are they doing business instead of cultivating?" Chapter 142. Lu Chun smiled bitterly and said, "The treatment an outer disciple receives is only 1 spirit stone and 1,000 silver taels. It is not enough for cultivation. Furthermore, the competition is too intense. Everyone wants to enter the inner sect. Without enough money, it is impossible to maintain the status quo." Xiao Chen was deep in thought. This was probably the tragedy of a loose cultivator. If he had not been fortunate enough to rob a few noble clan disciples of their belongings, he might have to set up a stall like these people. Suddenly, Lu Chun said, "Brother Yi, actually, if you really want to find a rank 5 spirit beast, there are a few places on this map that you can definitely find." "What places?" Xiao Chen's interest was piqued. He still had to kill this rank 5 spirit beast. After all, he had made so many preparations. He could not return empty-handed. Lu Chun pointed to a spot on the map that was marked with a rank 5 herb. "This is where the rank 5 herb, Yubing grass, is located. If you continue forward, you will find a rank 6 herb, ice crystal flower. There will definitely be rank 5 spirit beasts guarding this rank 6 herb. They're also here and here." When Xiao Chen heard this, he could not help but smile. The highest ranked herb on this map was only rank 5. It looked like this Lu Chun was hiding something. "Excuse me for being nosy. I wonder why Brother Xiao Chun wants to know about rank 5 spirit beasts?" Lu Chun could clearly feel that Xiao Chun was only a superior grade martial master. If he met a rank 5 spirit beast, he would not have any chance of surviving. Xiao Chun smiled faintly. "Nothing much, I was just asking casually. How much is the map? I'll buy it." Seeing that Xiao Chun was unwilling to speak, Lu Chun tactfully did not continue asking. "The map is very cheap, 200 silver taels. 200 silver taels for a map, and you call it not expensive? You must be treating me like a fool." With such a small amount of money, Xiao Chun could not be bothered to bargain. After he ransacked the Jiang clan's treasury, aside from the 20 million gold taels he spent on the Flying Snow Manor, there was still another 10 million gold taels and all sorts of spirit weapons and medicinal pills left in Xiao Chen's hands. Lu Chun took out a banknote worth 1,000 silver taels from the universe ring and took the map. When he saw the spatial ring on Xiao Chen's hand, an undetectable look of greed flashed in his eyes. However, it quickly disappeared. The smile on his face did not change as he returned the remaining money to Xiao Chun. He said enthusiastically, I wish Brother Xiao Chen a good harvest. Let's continue working together in the future. When Xiao Chan was far away, he looked at Xiao Chen's back and did not hide the greed in his eyes. He quickly put away his stall and smiled at the people who came to take a look. Everyone, I'm sorry. I will not be doing business today. Under the strange gazes of the crowd, Lu Chun quickly left. He ran to the outskirts of Evil Wind Valley, to a desolate forest. In the forest, there were a few youths wearing the uniform of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion's outer sect disciples. There was a corpse lying in front of them. Boss, this fellow is a pauper. He only has 2,000 silver taels on him. Furthermore, is broken silver. The medicinal pills he has are all trash, rank 2 medicinal pills. Someone cursed. The person leading the group was called Zhang Tuesday. He was an inferior grade martial grandmaster. He had an unfriendly expression on his face as he said in a sullen voice, there are still a few more months to the end of the year. If I do not advance to medial grade martial grandmaster, I will not be able to enter the inner sect. These people were all Heavenly Saber Pavilion's outer sect disciples. They were loose cultivators. For the sake of cultivation resources, they would frequently ambush lone cultivators in Evil Wind Valley. Sometimes, they would even attack their own sect members. When Zhang Tu saw Lu Chun running over in a panic, he said unhappily, What are you doing? Running for your life? Why are you running so fast? Lu Chun panicked and quickly told Zhang Tu what he had seen earlier. Zhang Tu revealed an expression of deep thought. He said, Are you sure he is alone? There is a spatial ring on his hand. He should be the young master of a large clan. How can he be alone? Lu Chun nodded and said, I am absolutely sure. Furthermore, this person seems to be new. He does not know anything and asked a lot of strange questions. His cultivation seems to be only peak superior grade martial grandmaster. To be able to spend 1,000 silver taels on a whim, this person is definitely not poor. Furthermore, he does not care about the price of his items. He is definitely a spendthrift from a young age. Boss, let's do it. Someone at the side said with a gleam in his eyes when he heard Lu Chen's words. Indeed, he is a superior grade martial grandmaster. Boss, you can deal with him alone. Furthermore, the few of us are at least medial grade martial grandmasters. There will not be any problems. Indeed, it is not like Boss has not done it before. This person might even have spirit stones on him. Boss, you still have to continue. Zhang Tu revealed an uncertain expression. His rationality told him that something was wrong. A superior grade martial grandmaster going to inquire about a rank 5 spirit beast was definitely not simple. However, the greed in his heart was like a flood, slowly breaking his rationality. When he heard the words spirit stones, the greed in Zhang Tu's heart overcame his rationality. He consoled himself by saying, no matter what, he is only a superior grade martial grandmaster. After he made up his mind, he said, Lu Chun, you should have left some medicinal powder on that person, right? Lu Chun chuckled, that is for sure. I have already smeared some medicinal powder on the map. I can find that person at any time. When one was outside, the human heart was unfathomable. One should not expose one's wealth. This was a very simple principle, especially in the Tianwu continent. The battles between humans were much more bloody than those between animals. One had to pay even more attention to it. It was not that Xiao Chun did not understand this principle. Unfortunately, he did not have much experience and accidentally exposed himself. He thought that it was not important. However, in this Evil Wind Valley, the human heart was sinister. How could he judge others by his own standards? Evil Wind Valley was surrounded by tall mountains. It was not appropriate to call it a valley, as it was simply too big. Not only was there a forest in the valley, there was also a river flowing around it. There were strange rocks everywhere. It was vast and boundless. There were many cultivators coming and going in the valley. After they crossed a river, Xiao Chun entered the dense forest in front. The forest was very big. The crowd immediately dispersed. As Xiao Chun continued to walk forward, he saw very few people. Pooh! Bai jumped out of the spirit blood jade with a joyful cry. Aside from being in the house, Xiao Chun had not let it out for the past few days. The main reason was that it was too eye-catching. Its snow-white fur was not tainted by any impurities. It also had a pair of watery eyes filled with spirituality. With one look, one could tell that it was not an ordinary item. Within the forest, Ba was very excited. The moment it landed on the ground, it immediately ran far away. Xiaoqin smiled faintly and ignored it. With its speed, no spirit beast would be able to catch it. However, Xiaoqian still warned it not to run too far. It was not because it was afraid of those ferocious spirit beasts, but because he was afraid of being seen by other cultivators and attracting unnecessary trouble. Xiaoqin took out the map and looked at it carefully. In the end, he decided to go to the ice crystal flowers to take a look one by one. Regardless of what Ge Binyun was thinking, he had already made so many preparations. He had to give it a try. If Ge Binyun would play tricks on him, he would fall out with him. Within Evil Wind Valley, Zhang Tu's group was following the route that Xiaoqin took. They followed behind him unhurriedly. Occasionally, Lu Chun would sniff the air. Lu Chen's martial spirit was an ordinary dog. It was not very useful in battle, but it was very strong when it came to tracking people. This was not the first time they had used such a method. They all had relaxed expressions and did not seem to mind. "Boss, he might be going to the ice crystal flowers," Lu Chan said after sniffing the air for a while. Zhang Tu frowned slightly. His expression was somewhat gloomy. He muttered, "Could it be that he is really going to find a rank 5 spirit beast? He is just a superior grade martial master. What does he get his confidence from?" Lu Chun, who was at the side, heard Zhang Tu's muttering. He said, "He might have some kind of secret treasure. This time, he might have really caught a big fish." When Zhang Tu heard this, he went into deep thought. After a while, he said solemnly, "This should be the only reason. This brat is definitely not an ordinary superior grade martial master. We cannot follow our usual plan. Fourth brother, how many more times can you use that thing of yours?" Zhang Tu turned around and said to a skinny cultivator. That skinny cultivator took out a very ordinary piece of metal. He said in astonishment, 2 or 3 times should not be a problem. However, is there a need to use this thing to deal with a superior grade martial master? Zhang Tu took the piece of metal, and a ruthless look flashed in his eyes. He said, "This brat is definitely not an ordinary person. You will not go wrong listening to me. I will personally make a move later. We will take a shortcut and set up an ambush. We will try to deal with him in one move and not cause any other problems." Although this map was very expensive, the locations of the spirit beasts marked on it were very accurate. Xiao Chun followed the directions on the map and successfully avoided some of the spirit beasts that lived in groups. Along the way, he only met a few wandering spirit beasts and dealt with them easily. Xiao Chun dealt with another rank 3 spirit beast blocking his way. Following the principle that even the smallest mosquito was meat, Xiao Chun extracted its spirit core and placed it in his universal ring. After everything that had happened the previous night, Xiao Chun took out the map again and looked at it carefully. At this moment, Bai came out of nowhere and leaped gently onto Xiao Chen's shoulder. When it saw the map in Xiao Chen's hand, it went over to take a look out of curiosity. Pussy eye. Before it got close, it sneezed. A layer of powder started to spread out from the map. Xiao Chun frowned and held his breath. He quickly threw the map in his hand to the ground. Xiao Chun took out a piece of white paper from the universe ring and collected all the dust particles one by one. The green spirit core in Xiao Chen's mind extended out along with his spiritual sense. It carefully analyzed the composition of the powder on the white paper. This green that was a spirit core that only alchemists had. Xiao Chen had not used it for a long time already. At this moment, it came in handy. Withdrawing his spiritual sense, Xiao Chun casually tossed the white paper away. He heaved a sigh of relief in his heart. It was just some powder with a special smell. Fortunately, it was not poison. If it was, he would have fallen for it already. The corner of Xiao Chen's mouth curled up into a cold smile. He picked up the map again and said indifferently, "The human heart is something that no one can understand." He extended his spiritual sense into the surroundings. As he walked, everything within 800 meters appeared in his mind. Everything appeared in his mind. A flower, a tree, and some martial artists who were fighting with the spirit beasts. None of them could escape. After a while, Xiao Chan sensed something on the path to the ice crystal flower's birth. 6 figures were hiding in the surrounding trees with a clear purpose. Lu Chen's figure was among them. Chapter 143. When the 6 people on the tree saw Xiao Chan approaching, they all became cautious. They held their breaths and became extremely quiet. Zhang Tu held the mysterious piece of metal in his hand. His palm was actually sweating. He could not help but curse in his heart. It is just a superior grade martial master. There is no need to be so nervous. His expression slowly eased up. As he watched Xiao Chan get closer, he could not help but slowly count down in his heart. 10, 9, 8, 7. When he counted to 10, he tossed the piece of metal in his hand forward. The piece of metal immediately expanded with the wind. After a while, it was the size of a small mountain. It pressed down on Xiao Chen's head. There was a loud rumbling sound as the piece of metal landed on the ground. The ground started to tremble, and some of the surrounding trees were toppled. Not good, Zhang Tu exclaimed. In the instant the piece of metal was about to be thrown, there was a flash of lightning. Xiao Chen's figure suddenly disappeared. Ah! There was a loud, miserable cry. In the quiet forest, it was very horrifying. Lu Chen's body was chopped in half, and he fell from the tree. Xiao Chan stood on the tree branch and looked at the piece of metal on the ground. He was startled. Fortunately, he had sensed Lu Chen's killing intent in advance. Otherwise, if he was caught off guard, Xiao Chan would definitely fall for it. With such a big thing pressing down, even a martial saint would not feel good. Zhang Tu quickly landed on the ground and put away the piece of metal. He wanted to take it out again. However, Xiao Chan did not want to give him the chance. He leaped into the air and flew down from the tree. He turned into a blue dragon and roared angrily. A cold light flickered and a saber light appeared. Xiao Chen's figure landed in front of Zhang Tu's day. He did not hesitate to quickly draw his saber, drawing the saber. The saber created a strong wind. However, the saber light was faster than the wind. This startled Zhang Tu's day. He quickly gave up on taking out the piece of metal and quickly retreated. When Xiao Chan saw him retreat, the corner of his mouth curled up into a faint smile. There was a clap of thunder behind him, and the electric light passed through the ground to Xiao Chen's feet. Finally, it gathered on the lunar shadow saber. In an instant, the purple light shone brightly. Xiao Chan did not even have to release the power of the demonic core in the lunar shadow saber. The electric light was already so resplendent that it was dazzling. He took a step forward, and his saber drew a long purple arc in the air. On the arc, countless electric arcs flickered, bewitching and beautiful. Zhang Tu knew that he could not avoid this arc, so he used up all his essence qi, forming an essence qi barrier around his body. He wanted to take it head-on. However, after Xiao Chan refined the Thunder Crash saber technique, its might was much stronger than before. The essence barrier that he hastily gathered could not block it at all. Pucci. The essence barrier on Zhang Tu's chest was sliced open, and the purple light tore through his clothes. It left a long gash on the yellow rank battle armor he was wearing. After that, it left a scarlet wound on his chest, and blood spurted out. The horrifying electric light quickly entered his body. It swept through the meridians in his body like breaking dead leaves. The essence in his body instantly turned chaotic, and he temporarily lost control of his body. Rushing heaven chop, Xiao Chan shouted, and his body soared into the sky. The saber pierced forward without any fancy moves, and in the next moment, it was going to pierce through Zhang Tu's chest. No! Zhang Tu revealed an expression of extreme horror in his eyes as he said in despair. In that instant, he thought of many things. He thought of the excitement he felt when he first came to Saber City. He thought of the oath he made when he entered the Heavenly Saber Pavilion's outer sect. One day, he would become the strongest bladesman in the world. However, all this was soon buried in the merciless reality. Those people with similar talent to him relied on the resources of their clans, and their cultivations quickly surpassed his. 1 year passed, 2 years passed. His hopes of entering the inner sect became slimmer and slimmer. He did not know when it started, But he forgot his oath and fell to his current state. Suddenly, Zhang Tu was dispirited to discover that he was about to die. In this final battle, he did not even draw his saber. He only wanted to rely on unorthodox methods to deal with a superior grade martial master. He tried hard to control his right hand, wanted to pull out the long saber at his waist, but just as he touched the hilt. However, just as he touched the saber hilt, the lunar shadow saber pierced through the wound on Xiao Qin's chest. With a bang, his body shattered into countless pieces. The saber fell to the ground with a huang-dang sound. Even when he died, he did not draw it. Xiao Qin turned around and quickly grabbed the piece of metal in the air. When the remaining 4 people saw that Xiao Qin dealt with them in an instant, the strongest among them, Zhang Tu, turned pale with fright. They turned around and ran. Dragon seizing hand, Xiao Qin shouted loudly, and a huge black palm descended from the sky. With a loud bang, it smashed the 4 of them to the ground. Xiao Qin used the dragon seizing hand again. He did not move from his original position and controlled the huge black palm to form a fist with his right hand. Boom! A cultivator who was struggling to stand up was hammered down by the huge black fist. He cried out miserably, and his body was smashed into a pile of meat paste. Boom! 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 There were another 3 loud sounds. The black fist carried an overwhelming force as it smashed down continuously. The huge force landed on the ground. The ground trembled continuously. The trees on both sides were swaying left and right. They swayed nonstop. After a long time, they slowly stopped swaying. Xiao Qin withdrew his hand and looked coldly at the 5 corpses on the ground. He searched the corpses clean and quickly left the place. The commotion earlier was too big. Many cultivators were attracted by it and were rushing over. Xiao Qin did not dare to stay any longer. Not long after Xiao Qin left, a heavenly saber pavilion outer disciple rushed over. He carried a thick saber on his back, and there was a long scar on the right side of his face. This made his originally young face look very sinister. When he saw the corpses on the ground, he did not seem too shocked. Zhang Tu's corpse had already been smashed into many pieces. It looked very disgusting. Blood dyed the ground red. It was impossible to make out this person's identity. He searched the ground for a while and found a black metal medallion. Zhang Tu's name was written on the front, and the words Heavenly Saber Pavilion was carved on the back. Zhang Tu was actually killed by someone in Evil Wind Valley. The scarred man read it out slowly. His eyes revealed an expression of extreme shock. There was an undetectable sorrow in the depths of his eyes. Pooh, pooh, pooh. A series of footsteps could be heard. Many Heavenly Saber Pavilion outer disciples heard the commotion and rushed over. When they saw the corpses on the ground, they were greatly shocked. It's Lu Chen's group. This is their metal medallion. Very soon, someone found their identity medallion. They were all outer disciples. Naturally, they recognized Lu Chen's group. When they saw their miserable deaths, they felt fear in their hearts. An outer disciple, wearing embroidered robes, walked over to the scarred man. When he saw the name carved on the metal medallion, he was stunned. Then he smiled and said, "I did not expect Zhang Tu to be dead as well. I thought he had escaped. Lu Mingfei and the others. Were you the one who killed them? Zhang Tu was your biggest competitor when you entered the inner sect." He looked at the scarred man with a smile that was not a smile and asked in a mocking tone. He did not care about this person at all. Zhang Tu is actually dead. Out of the 10 spots to enter the inner sect, he was one of the hot favorites. It is such a pity that he died like that. I wonder who did it. They actually killed 6 outer disciples right under the nose of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. They are too courageous. They do not care about the Heavenly Saber Pavilion at all. It is clear that the person who did it has a higher cultivation than Zhang Tuesday. This fellow must have met a tough opponent. He has been beating up a bird for a long time and finally got pecked by a bird. When the group of outer disciples heard the man in embroidered robes say Zhang Tu's name, they all burst into an uproar. Some shook their heads and sighed. Some rejoiced in their hearts. With this, they would have one less opponent for the year-end exam. The treatment of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion's inner disciples was much better than that of the outer disciples. Just the spirit stones they received every month was 10 times that of the outer disciples. Furthermore, they had the opportunity to receive personal guidance from a martial king. They could also choose all sorts of high-ranked martial techniques and superior-grade medicinal pills. The mountain range was filled with spiritual energy. It was not something that Saber City could compare to. However, there were only 10 outer disciples who could enter the Heavenly Saber Pavilion every year. This resulted in intense competition in the outer sect. When the many cultivators present heard the news of Zhang Tu's death, they all rejoiced in their hearts. Lu Mingfei stood up and grasped the metal medallion tightly. He looked at the youth in embroidered robes beside him and said coldly, "Yin Tianzheng, you better pray that you're not in the same group as me during the year-end exam. Otherwise, I will definitely kill you." After Lu Mingfei said this, he left with large strides. Yin Tianzheng looked at Lu Mingfei's back and mocked, "Just a commoner's disciple, and he wants to fight with me for the right to enter the intersect? Wishful thinking." On the other side, in a forest, Xiao Chun casually laid down a small, one-time use illusion formation. Then, he carefully studied the metal medallion in his hand. This metal medallion could actually grow with the wind. It instantly became the size of a small mountain. It was very similar to the growing soil that Yu the Great used to control the flood in ancient times. Could this be a secret treasure? Xiao Chun asked suspiciously as he looked at the metal medallion in his hand. However, when he extended his spiritual sense, Xiao Chun could not feel any formation patterns or Taoist rhymes on it. There was no trace of a secret treasure at all. Just as Xiao Chun was feeling puzzled, an idea flashed in his mind. He remembered that there was an extremely precious refining material in the compendium of cultivation. Astral iron. This was a natural treasure. According to legend, it was made from polished meteorites that came from the outer realm. After these meteorites were polished, they would have all sorts of strange effects. Some could summon boundless flames, ice, and hurricanes. Some could even create a small world. Some could even summon creatures from the outer realm. It was very strange. These star irons have been wandering in the universe for hundreds of thousands of years. During such a long period of time, they have been exposed to the impurities in the universe and all kinds of strange rays. Therefore, it was not strange for them to have some strange special effects. This was definitely a piece of astral iron, Xiao Chun said joyfully. This was because there was a clear record of it in the compendium of cultivation. Although it was only briefly mentioned, it did indeed exist. Although the special effects of the astral iron were different, they all had a common use. That was to repair all sorts of divine weapons and secret treasures. Even the strongest divine weapons and emperor-grade secret treasures could be completely repaired. Chapter 144. Xiao Chun took out the exquisite copper bell from the universe ring. He looked at the severely damaged patterns on it and smiled faintly. These should be able to be repaired. As for the chaotic patterns inside, I can slowly sort them out in the future. He placed the copper bell beside his hand, and his spiritual sense wrapped around the astral iron. The boundless purple flame in his right eye started to spin quickly. So, the purple flame leaped out from his right eye and burned the astral iron. The astral iron was extremely hard. Regular flames would not be able to melt it. Xiao Chen's purple thunder true fire, which had formed its origin, needed to be extremely hot before it could barely melt it. Time slowly went by. For hours had passed unknowingly. The astral iron and the purple flame did not show any signs of melting. Sweat covered Xiao Chen's forehead. It dripped down continuously. The horrifying temperature of the flame made his face turn red. Bang! Xiao Chun tossed out another dull spirit stone. This was already the third inferior grade spirit stone that he had tossed out. The purple thunder true fire burned for a long time, exhausting a lot of essence. Actually, with Xiao Chen's current cultivation realm, he was too anxious to melt the astral iron. The ancient immortal cultivators on Earth only had the ability to melt the astral iron after they reached the Yuanying realm. After all, it was an item from the outside world. It was not an ordinary natural treasure. It was not that easy to refine. Xiao Chen gently wiped the sweat off his forehead. He was not too anxious in his heart. With his flushed face, he looked at the astral iron in the purple flame with a resolute gaze as it continued to burn. When Xiao Chun used up the 10th inferior grade spirit stone, the astral iron finally changed. A drop of scarlet liquid slowly dripped down into the jade bottle that Xiao Chun had prepared. Just at this moment, something strange happened. A faintly discernible evil spirit rushed out from the astral iron. It let out a horrifying wail and charged at Xiao Chun. This was a mysterious, ominous spirit in the universe. Almost every piece of astral iron had one. The ominous spirit did not have a physical body. It would only devour the souls of humans. No martial technique would have any effect on it. No one knew what was going on with the formation of the evil spirit. It was just like the strange, special effects of a star iron. No one could understand it with common sense. Xiao Chun understood and did not panic too much. He had already expected the ferocious spirit to appear. Just as the ferocious spirit was about to charge into Xiao Chen's mind, his eyes suddenly shot out 2 rays of violet light that pierced through the ferocious spirit. A black mist spread out, and the ferocious spirit continuously howled before turning into nothingness. This purple light was something that Xiao Chun would shoot out every time he broke through a major realm. He had no idea what it was for. However, Xiao Chun had a feeling that this purple light could destroy the ominous spirit that specialized in devouring souls. This was because the same scene seemed to have appeared his life before. When Xiao Chun was planning to melt the astral iron, he had already made up his mind. He would make use of this opportunity to advance to Martial Grandmaster and use the violet light to kill the ominous spirit. Although this was not the best time to advance, he had no other choice in order to eliminate this ominous spirit. The instant the ominous spirit disappeared, the astral iron had completely melted. Xiao Chun got up and stretched himself. He was not in a rush to check on the situation after his advancement. He picked up the porcelain bottle on the ground. After the astral iron, which was the size of a small mountain, was calcined, there were only 10-odd drops of scarlet liquid left behind. Xiao Chun slowly poured the liquid onto the copper bell. When the scarlet liquid landed on the copper bell, it instantly seeped in. It looked very strange. When the 10-odd drops of scarlet liquid entered the copper bell, it released a scarlet glow. With a schwa sound, it immediately flew into the air. Lines appeared on the surface of the copper bell. It was like an invisible hand was carving. The cracks and holes on the copper bell were slowly mended. A faint righteous chi came from the copper bell. When standing beside it, it made one feel very calm. Xiao Chun revealed an expression of joy. He leaned against the copper bell in the air and said, "It is indeed a secret treasure used by the ancient sages. I did not waste 10-odd inferior grade spirit stones in vain." Dang! The last line of lines on the copper bell was completed. A complete ancient bell appeared before Xiao Chen's eyes. With a schwa sound, the copper bell became as tall as a person. A drawn-out bell chime resounded. This sound was very calm. Xiao Chun stood below the copper bell. He felt that his inferior grade martial grandmaster cultivation had stabilized significantly under the influence of this melodious bell chime. Xiao Chun looked up. The interior of the copper bell was pitch black. It was boundlessly deep. He could not help but feel excited. There seemed to be a small world inside. A secret treasure that can automatically materialize a small world. Could it be an incomplete king-grade secret treasure? Xiao Chun frowned slightly as he looked at the deep space. He felt suspicious. A black banner flew out from Xiao Chen's eyes. The banner carried Xiao Chen's spiritual sense and flew into that black space. Boom! The world before Xiao Chun suddenly changed. A space of nothingness appeared before him. The black banner under his feet continued to descend. Bang! After descending for an unknown period of time, the black banner stabbed into the air with a schwa sound. A piece of land immediately materialized. A small world started to spread out from the ground below the banner. A strong wind blew, dust flew everywhere, and the roars were like thunder. The scene that the small world materialized was that of an ancient battlefield. Countless humanoid creatures stood densely in the air. Some of these creatures had 3 heads and 6 arms. They held all sorts of weapons in their hands. Black chi lingered around them as they stood in the air. Some of them had wings that looked like that of a bird. They floated in the air and formed hand seals with their hands. Streams of destructive energy descended from the sky. Even further away, there were 7 figures that were hundreds of meters tall. Their heads reached the sky and their feet touched the ground. Boundless black clouds gathered above their heads, stretching out for thousands of kilometers. There was no end in sight, layer upon layer, vast and boundless. Among them, a human laughed loudly. His laughter was filled with a heroic spirit, causing one's blood to surge uncontrollably. A huge copper bell floated above his head. The sound of the bell was like a divine sound spreading out in all directions. Ripples that could be seen with the naked eye appeared and spread out into the sky. The countless humanoid creatures standing in the air instantly dispersed like they were breaking dry weeds. He stomped his feet, causing the ground to shake, the sky to tremble, and the mountains to shatter. He stretched out his hand, and his 5 fingers became infinitely large. When he pressed them together, the figures in the air were crushed like ants. Xiao Qin stood where he was. Suddenly, his heart skipped a beat. He said in astonishment, "This is the dragon seizing hand. Is this person the Yin clan's patriarch? What a horrifying power." He broke the laws of this space with just one palm strike. Standing in this battlefield, Xiao Chun was like a passerby. The demonic soldiers, shrouded in black, chi passed by him, as though they did not see him. They charged at the Yin clan's patriarch. However, the Yin clan's patriarch was like an undefeatable existence. The copper bell above his head shot down strands of yellow chi, blocking all the attacks. No one could get close to him. Finally, in the distance, among the 7 huge figures, a cold voice came. The strongest defensive secret treasure of the human race, the Eastern Emperor Bell. The moment the voice sounded out, the 7 huge black figures rushed over. As they moved, the ground seemed to shrink to an inch. In the blink of an eye, they arrived before the Yin clan's patriarch. The surrounding people immediately retreated. There were loud explosions, and large holes appeared in space. The Eastern Emperor Bell rang out continuously. Even though the Yin clan's patriarch was fighting 1 against 7, he did not fall into a disadvantage. However, as the battle dragged on, cracks appeared on the Eastern Emperor Bell. In the end, it could not hold on any longer, and the Tao pattern shattered. With a boom, it turned into a small copper bell and fell from the sky, landing at Xiao Chen's feet. The Yin clan's patriarch vomited a mouthful of blood and laughed loudly. Then his body exploded. He had actually chosen the most decisive way to die. The instant he exploded, the ancient battlefield disappeared without a trace. In the boundless desolate land, there was only a small, damaged copper bell left. This proved that everything that had just happened was real. Xiao Qin picked up the broken copper bell and wiped off the dust on it. He sent a strand of his divine sense into the copper bell and discovered that there was no imprint left behind by the Yin clan's patriarch. This made things much easier. Xiao Chun left his divine sense inside and turned it into an imprint. Then, he slowly merged it with the Eastern Emperor Bell. After that, he controlled the black flag and broke through this space to retreat. The black flag rushed into Xiao Chen's eyes. Xiao Chen's divine sense returned to his body. He looked at the Eastern Emperor Bell in the sky again. Xiao Chen already had a strange connection with it. Xiao Chun waved his hand, and the huge copper bell shrunk to the size of a thumb and landed in Xiao Chen's palm. He muttered, "Eastern Emperor Bell, the strongest defensive secret treasure of the human race. I wonder how much of its might I can bring out now." Xiao Chun placed the copper bell back into the universe ring and walked out of this illusion formation. If someone passed by, they would find it extremely strange. Xiao Chen's body seemed to have appeared out of thin air. "Hey!" An indistinct sigh entered Xiao Chen's ears. Xiao Chen's expression turned grave, and he extended out his divine sense. Earlier, he had felt that there was a figure following him after he left the city lord's residence. However, this feeling was very vague. Now that he had advanced to inferior-grade martial grandmaster, his senses were more than twice as strong as before. This feeling was even stronger. Xiaoqin carefully scanned the area with his spiritual sense a few times, but did not discover anyone. Xiaoqian said doubtfully, "Could it be that I overreacted? If there really was someone, my spiritual sense should have discovered them long ago." Shaking his head, Xiaoqian recollected his thoughts. He kept an eye on this as he continued forward. Just at this moment, Bai's figure ran over from afar. There were a few stalks of herbs in his mouth. He leaped over to Xiaoqian like he was presenting a treasure. Xiaoqian received it and took a look. He could not help but smile. It was a few stalks of rank 5 yubing grass. Xiaoqian originally did not intend to pick them. He did not expect Bai to help him obtain them. Chapter 145. He had already obtained the yubing grass, so the ice crystal flower should be in front. Xiaoqian carried Bai in his embrace. He was almost at the location of the ice crystal flower, so he could not let it run around blindly. After a while, Xiaoqian walked out of the dense forest. He took out the map and looked at it. According to the markings on the map, the ice crystal flower grew on a cliff in front of him. Due to the protection of the rank 5 spirit beast, the ice ape, a regular outer disciple, would not dare to come and snatch it even though they knew there was a rank 6 herb here. The instant he walked out of the forest, the sunlight shone on Xiaoqian's body once again. When he looked up, he could already vaguely make out a tall cliff. This was the border of Evil Wind Valley. Xiaoqian patted Bai's head. Under its unwilling gaze, he placed it into the spirit blood jade. He extended his spiritual sense forward, but he did not see the rank 5 spirit beast, the ice ape. Instead, he saw a few young ice apes. They were only rank 4, resting in a corner. Looks like I made a wasted trip. There are no rank 5 spirit beasts here. Xiaoqian sighed slightly and prepared to leave. However, he changed his mind. Since he was already here, it would not be too late to take a look at the ice crystal flower. After all, it was a rank 6 herb. Even if he did not need it, he could still sell it for a good price. After he thought of this, Xiaoqian quickly ran towards a cliff. Just as he was about to reach it, he heard a startled cry. Xiaoqian stopped and looked towards the source of the sound. At the bottom of the cliff, there was a tall and sturdy youth. He was holding a huge axe in his hand, blocking the attacks of 3 ice apes. On the cliff behind him, there was a petite figure carrying a basket on her back. She was nimbly climbing up the cliff. In a crevice above her head, there was a flower petal that was flickering with a cold light. Xiaoqian could not help but feel puzzled. He had clearly swept this place with his divine sense and did not find any cultivators. How could there be 2 more people for no reason? Xiaoqian looked at the 2 again and was shocked to find that the 2 of them had not condensed their martial souls. They were only at the soul refinement stage and were only slightly stronger than ordinary people. No wonder he did not notice them earlier. These 2 people were not martial artists at all. There was no fluctuation of essence in their bodies, so he directly ignored them. 2 commoners coming to chill Wind Valley. If this isn't courting death, then what is? Xiaoqian said with some blame in his heart. They really didn't take their lives seriously. The girl on a mountain wall had already climbed to the bottom of the ice crystal flower. She was only 1 step away from plucking it. Pooh! However, at this moment, a young ice ape broke through the defense of the tall and sturdy youth. With a few leaps, it arrived behind the girl. No! The eyes of the tall and sturdy youth guarding below turned bloodshot as he shouted. He threw the huge axe in his hand at the ice ape. The ice ape nimbly dodged the huge axe. It stretched out its huge hand and smashed it at the girl. When the girl turned her head to look, she was frightened pale. She lost her balance and fell down. Because the tall and sturdy youth no longer had a weapon, he was smashed to the ground by the 2 ice apes. In an instant, his body was covered with bloody wounds. It was a tragic sight. Lightning evasion. With a flash of lightning, Xiaoqian instantly arrived beside the youth. The lunar shadow saber glowed with a 2-meter saber light. This was the first time Xiaoqian had truly condensed a saber light. This was a martial technique that only martial grandmasters could use. Pusi. The saber light hacked violently at the ice ape that was beating up the tall and sturdy youth. With a cassier sound, the ice ape's arm was chopped off. However, a layer of ice appeared on its body, preventing the saber from penetrating any further. Xiao Chun was somewhat surprised that he did not manage to chop it in half. The ice ape that had its arm chopped off let out a pained wail, just like the perfectly fine ice ape beside it. The ice ape gave up on attacking the youth lying on the ground. A ferocious glint appeared in its eyes. The ice ape's sharp palm carried a cold wind as it ruthlessly smashed at Xiao Chun. Xiao Chun took a step back. A bolt of lightning descended from the sky and gathered on the saber. The lunar shadow saber moved in a purple arc. The arc flickered with electricity. In an instant, the saber cut open the chests of the two ice apes. The electricity shook violently, and the two ice apes were immediately knocked back. Xiao Chun did not continue chasing. He looked at the petite girl that had fallen into the air. A silver warship flew out from his eyes and caught the girl in an instant. The ice ape on the mountain wall roared and dived at Xiao Chun. With a huang-dang sound, the lunar shadow saber returned to its scabbard. Dragon seizing hand. A huge black hand appeared from nowhere. It carried an unparalleled force and smashed the ice ape into the mountain wall with a bang, turning palm into fist. The huge black hand clenched tightly. It seemed like it had the force of 1,000 kilograms as it smashed violently at the ice ape on the mountain wall. There was a loud rumbling sound. The mountain wall trembled and many rocks fell off. A large hole appeared in the mountain wall. The ice ape was smashed in violently. Blood leaked out from the corner of its mouth. Unexpectedly, its body was not smashed into mush. It was still in perfect condition. "It is really hard," Xiao Chun said indifferently with a frown. He stabbed the lunar shadow saber into the ground and took out the soul slayer bow and essence light arrow. There was a graceful flash and a surging aura. It was like a meteor tearing through the night sky. The arrow was as fast as lightning. It struck the ice ape that was struggling to climb out with a hong sound. The essence light arrow pierced through the ice ape's neck and pinned it to the ground. With this, the ice ape could not be any more dead. The ice ape's intelligence was very high. When the other two young ice apes saw the situation, they quickly turned and fled. Xiao Chun glanced at them indifferently and knocked two essence light arrows on his bow. The arrows moved like a beam of light, tearing through the air and arriving in an instant. They pierced through the chests of the two ice apes and left a large hole. Then, they fell to the ground with a loud bang. "Thank you, benefactor, for saving our lives." The stout youth on the ground, who was covered in wounds, got up and thanked Xiao Chun. Xiao Chun stood beside him. Xiao Chun was 8 meters tall, but he was actually shorter than him by a head. Looking at his face, he looked very honest. He was also not much older than Xiao Chun. However, Xiao Chun had some misgivings about the two of them entering Evil Wind Valley. Two cultivators who had not even condensed a martial spirit. What were they doing here? Xiao Chun waved his hand, and the small silver boat flew over and slowly landed on the ground. The little girl on the boat quickly jumped off. Xiao Chun looked at the bloody wounds on the youth's body. Although they were not fatal, if they were not treated, he would have to recuperate for a long time. Xiao Chun took out 2 blood-replenishing pills and handed them to him. He said, "One for external application and one for internal consumption. It can treat your injuries." The youth shook his head and said, "There is no need. This medicinal pill should be very expensive. My minor injuries are not a problem." However, the little girl behind him received it. She had a gentle and weak look on her face as she said softly, "Benefactor, don't listen to Xiao Yang's nonsense. With such severe external injuries, if they are not treated, they will have to recuperate for a long time before they can fully recover." Xiao Chun smiled faintly and entered the silver warship. He did not say anything and left directly. They had met by chance, and it was just a small matter. There was no need to be overly stubborn about it. The youth called Xiao Yang wanted to chase after Xiao Chun. However, he was stopped by the girl behind him. "Don't chase. When Xiao Chun returns, it will be troublesome if he cannot find us." The youth was helpless. He could only watch as Xiao Chun left. The girl crushed the blood-replenishing pill and slowly applied it to the wounds of the stout youth. Not long after Xiao Chen left, a youth in blue quickly arrived before them. When he saw Xiao Yang's injuries, he quickly asked what was going on. After he understood, he immediately chased after Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen felt a figure rushing towards him quickly. The aura of the figure was very dense. He was at least a superior-grade martial grandmaster. Xiao Chen raised his guard and stopped. He slowly turned around. When a youth in blue saw Xiao Chen stop, he quickly went forward and said, "I am Lu Suifeng. I have not asked for your great name yet. You saved my two friends. I will definitely repay this favor in the future." This youth had regular features and an imposing appearance. He had a righteous expression on his face. His sincere words dispelled Xiao Chen's guard. He smiled faintly and said, "Yi Chun, it was just a small matter. There's no need to pay so much attention to it." While Xiao Chen was sizing up Lu Suifeng was also carefully observing Xiao Chen. After a while, Lu Suifeng was astonished. He was merely an inferior-grade martial master, yet he was able to chase away 3 infant ice apes so easily. This person was definitely not simple. "Brother Yi, are you from the Heavenly Saber Pavilion's outer sect?" "I don't think I have heard of this name before," Lu Suifeng asked. Xiao Chen glanced at Lu Suifeng's waist. He saw the silver identity token and understood. This person was an inner disciple of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. No wonder he asked if he was from the outer sect. "No, I just came to Saber City not long ago." Xiao Chen felt there was no need to hide anything, so he answered honestly. After that, the two of them chatted for a while. Xiao Chen finally understood why those 2 ordinary people wanted to enter Evil Wind Valley. The ice crystal flower bloomed once every 3 months. If it did not bloom, the 3 of them would come and pick the petals. All along, after Lu Suifeng lured away the adult ice apes, he would leave the 2 of them behind to pick the petals. In the past, there were only 2 infant ice apes. Xiao Yang was able to last until Lu Suifeng returned. However, he did not know why there were 3 this time. Xiao Chen obtained an important piece of information. There really was a rank 5 spirit beast here. Furthermore, Lu Suifeng did not injure him. He only lured him away. He could not help but rejoice. Before they parted, Lu Suifeng wanted to give Xiao Chen 3 inferior-grade spirit stones. Originally, he thought Xiao Chen would gladly accept it. Who knew? He would reject it. To Xiao Chen, this was just a small matter. He could not accept such a huge favor. Furthermore, he wanted to befriend this person. In the future, if he entered the inner sect, he might have to interact with this person. Seeing that Xiao Chen insisted on not accepting it, Lu Suifeng did not argue. He took his leave and said that if Xiao Chen had any problems in the future, he would do his best to help. After knowing the information about the rank 5 spirit beast, Xiao Chen was not in a rush to leave. After the 3 of them picked all the petals of the ice crystal flower, Xiao Chen revealed himself. Seeing the ice ape nailed to the entrance of the cave, Xiao Chen thought for a while. First, he took out the spirit cores of the 2 ice apes on the ground and burned them to ashes. After doing all this, Xiao Chen pushed off the ground and flew to the entrance of the cave on the mountain wall. He carried out the infant ice ape's corpse and carefully stuck several rank 3 lightning-attributed talismans on the back of the corpse. After that, he jumped into the cave and found a bush. He withdrew his aura and hid. Chapter 146. After a long time, heavy footsteps came from the distance. The cold qi in the air became even more horrifying. "It's here." Xiao Chen felt somewhat nervous. He did not even dare to breathe loudly, lowering his own aura to its limits. A 10-meter-tall ice ape appeared in Xiao Chen's vision. It had long white fur covering its body. It looked like a human walking upright. From a distance, one might mistake it for a white-haired old man. "Roar!" The adult ice ape quickly saw the young ice ape that had died a miserable death on the mountain wall. It roared angrily, and its eyes turned bloodshot. It pushed off the ground and arrived at the cave in the mountain wall in the blink of an eye. What fast speed! Xiao Chen was secretly startled. The speed of this adult ice ape completely surpassed his imagination. Unexpectedly, he only saw a blurry white light. I can't wait any longer. Xiao Chun jumped out of the bush and quickly formed a hand seal. Then he shouted, "Explode!" The instant that Ice Ape saw Xiao Chun appear, it immediately turned its head. Its heart burned with rage, and a baleful aura filled the air. However, just as it was about to make a move, a boundlessly resplendent light suddenly lit up the cave. An earth-shattering explosion resounded. More than 10 rank 3 lightning-attributed talismans exploded together. The might was already comparable to a peak Earth-ranked martial technique. Furthermore, the destructive power was even more horrifying. The Ice Ape's corpse was blasted into smithereens. An intense shockwave instantly tossed the Ice Ape high into the sky. The tall cliff collapsed with a loud rumble, and the ground trembled continuously. Countless rocks fell from the sky and shot out. Xiao Chun quickly retreated, dodging these extremely powerful rocks. Shua! A white figure descended from the sky and quickly landed beside Xiao Chun. It opened its palms, and a boundless cold qi spread out. Its 5 sharp claws carried a dense cold qi as they swiped at Xiao Chun. When Xiao Chun saw the white figure, he was startled. He saw the layers of ice on its body slowly peeling off. More than 10 rank 3 talismans did not cause any substantial damage to it. Clang! Xiao Chun drew his saber and released the energy of the rank 6 demonic core in the lunar shadow saber without holding anything back. Boundless electricity flickered nonstop. Xiao Chun brandished his saber, and the electricity crackled in the booth, blocking the sharp claws of the Ice Ape. Clang, clang. The Ice Ape used its long arms and legs, jumping up and down. Its speed was extremely fast, turning into a blurry white blur as it continuously attacked Xiao Chun. The more Xiao Chun blocked, the more strenuous it became. Gradually, he felt that something was wrong. The surrounding cold air was getting heavier and heavier. Every step he took was incomparably difficult, as if his legs were stiff. Poochie! The Ice Ape let out a strange cry, and the surrounding cold air suddenly dropped by a lot. Xiao Chun was immediately hit, and both his legs were directly frozen. The Ice Ape took advantage of this opportunity to grab the lunar shadow saber with its right hand, ignoring the electricity flickering on the lunar shadow saber. Its other sharp palm tried to grab Xiao Chun's head. When that palm with cold qi spread out, it was about the size of a wash basin. In its eyes, Xiao Chun's head was like a baby's. With just a gentle pinch, his brain would burst. Poo-ci. Just as that sharp palm was about to grab Xiao Chun's head, a boundless flame gathered in Xiao Chun's right eye and gushed out. The flame immediately followed the Ice Ape's arm and spread to its entire body. In an instant, the Ice Ape cried out in pain, and the surrounding cold qi was instantly dispersed. The hot qi in Xiao Chun's body surged, and his body returned to normal. He quickly retreated. Dragon seizing hand. A huge black hand appeared from nowhere and grabbed the fiery Ice Ape. In the instant he clenched his fist, Xiao Chun met with an extremely strong resistance, causing him to be unable to clench his fist. Xiao Chun immediately let go. He knew that the Ice Ape's body was incomparably hard, and there was no need to waste time with it. The huge black hand turned into a fist and hammered down with a rumbling sound. The sound did not stop, and the ground trembled. The Ice Ape was hammered into the ground. Xiao Chun withdrew his hand and stood upright. He wiped the sweat off his forehead. The consumption of this inherited martial technique was much greater than a regular martial technique. Although he managed to injure the Ice Ape by surprise, Xiao Chun did not dare to be careless. He took out the Soul Slayer bow and Essence Light arrow, drew the bowstring, and concentrated. There was a ka-se sound coming from the ground. It was the sound of ice breaking. Xiao Chun was horrified. Could it be that the Purple Thunder True Fire is unable to break the layer of ice on the Ice Ape's body? There was a flash of white light, and the Ice Ape stood up again. It felt the aura of the Soul Slayer bow, and in the instant it stood up, it quickly turned around, creating a strong wind as it moved in an S-shaped trajectory. So, Xiao Chun released his hand, and the first thing he did was to mark the ice ape's chest with his spiritual sense. No matter how fast it would not be able to avoid being hit. The essence light arrow flashed like a meteor, piercing through the strong wind created by the ice ape and striking its chest. Cassier. A layer of ice appeared on the ice ape's chest, blocking the arrow. The essence light arrow shattered the ice, but it could not advance any further. The ice fell with a dang-dang sound. The arrow carried a huge force, knocking the ice ape back by 5 steps. Xiao Chun looked at the ice on the ground, and he made up his mind. I don't believe you can create an unlimited amount of ice. After he made up his mind, he fired the essence light arrows without caring about the exhaustion. For a moment, the air was filled with the buzzing of the arrows. Regardless of whether the ice ape leaped from the sky or charged from the front or the side, there would always be an arrow knocking it back like a sudden clap of thunder. In the blink of an eye, Xiao Chun had shot out more than 100 essence light arrows. Even with Xiao Chen's strong physical body, he still found it hard to draw the Soul Slayer bow, which he could only rely on his physical body. As for the ice ape, it seemed like nothing had happened to it. The ground was filled with ice fragments and essence light arrows, but the ice ape still charged at Xiao Chun with a high morale. Flight on wings, one line chop. Xiao Chun had already used up all the essence light arrows. He put away the Soul Slayer bow and shouted. The light on his saber was withdrawn, and he sent a simple saber strike at the ice ape. Bang! The human and the beast both retreated a few steps. Xiao Chun was mildly astonished, and then he rejoiced. The force of the ice ape's palm strike was no longer as ferocious as before. Flight on wings, disordered dance of 1,000 years. Xiao Chun took a step forward and leaped into the air. His figure moved rapidly in the air, and in an instant his speed reached its peak. Countless saber lights flashed. The wind howled as the ice ape's palms struck out continuously. One human and one beast, one in the air and one on the ground, moved very quickly. Metallic sounds rang out continuously. The instant the saber and the palm clashed, they created a huge shockwave. The shockwave was accompanied by the sound of the wind, forming a huge shockwave in the surroundings. It kicked up dust and made it dance around chaotically. By the time Xiao Chun landed, he had already sent out more than 1,000 saber strikes. Ice continued to fall from the ice ape's body. When all the ice fell to the ground, there were bright red wounds on the ice ape's chest, arms, and back. The wounds were not deep, but they tore through the ice ape's flesh and dyed its snow-white fur red. Xiao Chun felt gratified. As long as he was fast enough, there would be places that the ice ape could not take care of. After fighting for so long, the ice that appeared on the ice ape's body was like a cheat. It could block all sorts of attacks. When Xiao Chun saw that it was injured, his fighting spirit soared. Flight on wings, moon bright like fire. Xiao Chun did not give the ice ape a chance to catch its breath. He quickly used an inferior grade spirit stone and replenished his essence in an instant. Then he did not hesitate to execute flight on wings, the strongest move that he knew. The pitch-black night covered the sky, and a full moon slowly rose. A human figure holding a saber flew over from the horizon. Under the full moon, he arrived gracefully, as though he was a celestial being. Although Xiao Chun could not understand the state of this sword, he had been using the changing character formula to simulate the dragon seizing hand for the past few days. He had already comprehended some things. Today, he finally perfected moon bright like fire. Retreat! Xiao Chun shouted, and the human figure in the sky followed suit. The celestial voice was indistinct and vast. It resonated in the sky and on the ground, reverberating in the surroundings. The saber in Xiao Chun's hand pointed at the ice ape attacking him from the sky. The human figure in the sky did the same action. It was like a boundless energy tore through space and time. The ice ape in the sky paused for a moment. Then it was blasted away by a strange energy rolling on the ground. It stabbed its claws into the ground violently, but it still could not stop. Its sharp claws made a ZZ sound, creating a few long marks on the ground. It only stopped after a long time. Before it could stand up, a horrifying pressure descended from the sky. This aura was like an immortal descending. Mortals were like ants, trembling in fear. Immortal might was unfathomable. Immortal might could not be blocked. The sword of an immortal could break mountains and rivers for 5,000 kilometers. There was an earth-shattering sound. The human figure in the sky hacked at the ice ape. The ice ape crossed its palms and released a boundless cold chi, trying to block this saber strike. However, it was hacked into the ground with a loud boom. It sank for an unknown amount of meters, and a human-shaped hole appeared in the ground. The night disappeared, and the sunlight shone on Evil Wind Valley again. Xiao Chun took deep breaths and slowly walked to the hole. He felt a headache. If the ice ape died like this, how was he going to get its corpse out? Chi! Chi! Suddenly, layers of cold chi appeared on the ground, instantly freezing it and forming a smooth ice surface. Seeing the ice spreading under his feet, Xiao Chun frowned and retreated. He thought in astonishment, could it be that this ice ape is not dead yet? Bang! 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 Countless cracks appeared on the ice surface before it exploded. Countless pieces of frozen soil flew in all directions. When they landed, they immediately shattered into a pile of ice shards. A huge pit appeared on the flat ground. The adult ice ape stood in the pit. Its originally snow-white fur was now covered in blood. It was in a sorry state. It roared angrily and pushed off the ground with its forelimbs. It quickly crawled out. Its bloodshot eyes were filled with murderous intent as it looked at Xiao Chun. The baleful aura on Xiao Chun's body rushed to the sky. He opened his huge mouth, and a boundless cold chi poured into his mouth like a hurricane. A strong wind howled, and a cold wind blew. Under the illumination of the sun, snowflakes drifted down. Chapter 147. The cold wind and snowflakes were like knives, cutting into Xiao Chun's face. It was incomparably painful. He had to squint his eyes to prevent the snowflakes from entering his eyes. Pussy eye. A sharp killing intent locked onto Xiao Chun. The ice ape shot out a piercing ice line from its huge mouth. The ice line was extremely condensed. It was as thin as a needle. Xiao Chun felt the threat of death. In that instant, he wanted to take out the Eastern Emperor Bell. However, when he thought of his earlier apprehensions, he did not do so in the end. Heavenly lightning shield. Electricity flickered around Xiao Chun. The lightning evasion wrapped around Xiao Chun. However, the needle-sized ice line pierced through the heavenly lightning shield, leaving a tiny hole that the naked eye could not see. The heavenly lightning shield slowly disappeared, and blood spurted out from Xiao Chun's chest. Xiao Chun looked at the wound strangely. That ice line was too small. When it pierced through his body, he did not even feel any pain. The wound on his chest was very small. However, the blood that flowed out was like a faucet gushing out violently. Xiao Chun's complexion was pale. He used the lunar shadow saber to support his body and knelt on one knee. He took out a blood-replenishing pill with his left hand and instantly swallowed it. After that, he took out another blood-replenishing pill and crushed it before applying it on the wound. However, the blood-replenishing pill that had worked every time lost its effect this time. There was a cold chi lingering around the wound on his chest, preventing the flesh from closing up. When the ice ape shot out the ice line, it was like it had used up all its strength. It rested for a long time. Only then did it recover. It landed on all fours and leaped into the air, pouncing toward Xiao Chun. Xiao Chun revealed a determined expression on his pale face. He tossed out a golden wooden sculpture. The Golden Lion King appeared from nowhere. Its mountain-like body stomped heavily on the ice ape, crushing it to the ground. The Golden Lion King's thick front limbs trampled on the huge ice ape violently, twisting it around. After a long time, the ice ape finally stopped struggling. Xiao Chun sent out a strand of his divine sense and felt that the ice ape was indeed dead. Only then did he heave a sigh of relief. The wound on Xiao Chun's chest was still slowly bleeding. The blood-replenishing pill alleviated the bleeding, and it was not as turbulent as before. Tearing off a piece of cloth from his clothes, Xiao Chun wrapped it around the wound and went to the frost ape's side. Seeing the frost ape covered in wounds, Zhao Fu took out a sharp knife and cut open its body from the side. He found that the frost ape's internal organs had been badly damaged, and there were still traces of electricity in them. Looks like the dozen or so grade 3 lightning attribute talismans were the cause of its death, Xiao Chun said indifferently. Then, he took out the top grade ice attribute inner core. At this moment, there was a piercing sound in the air as a dazzling sword chi shot over. Xiao Chun unhurriedly placed the spirit core into the universe ring. He smiled faintly to himself. He finally could not resist making a move. Earlier, although he had scanned the area with his spiritual sense many times, he did not find anyone following him. However, Xiao Chun had kept an eye on him. He knew that someone was following him. Thus, even at the most crucial moment of the battle with the ice ape, he did not use some killing moves. If it were not for the situation being dire, the Golden Lion King would not have used them. Dang! The Eastern Emperor bell rang softly and flew out of Xiao Chen's body. It floated above his head, and strands of mysterious yellow chi fell from his head. The sword chi that flew behind him was blocked by the heaven and earth chi, disappearing without a trace. Xiao Chun gently pushed off the ground and leaped onto the Golden Lion King's head. He looked quietly at the person who arrived. An old man slowly walked out with waning steps. This was the martial saint that the Zhang clan head had ordered around. His name was Chang Siyuan, and he was the top guest of Yunyang City Zhang clan. He was already a consummation medial grade martial saint. After a cultivator became a martial saint, every time they advanced by grade, their strength would increase exponentially. A medial grade martial saint could fight against 10 inferior grade martial saints. Chang Siyuan looked at the Eastern Emperor bell above Xiao Chen's head. Then he looked at the huge Golden Lion King under his feet. His expression was somewhat cautious. Along the way, the youth in front of him had given him too many surprises. If Chang Siyuan had not cultivated a martial technique to hide his aura, he would have been discovered by this person several times. Chang Siyuan was already very shocked when he saw Xiao Chun take out the Golden Lion King. He did not expect Xiao Chun to take out a strong defensive secret treasure. Is this where your confidence comes from? Chang Siyuan's voice was very soft, but very clear. As he stood there quietly, he had an overwhelming aura. This aura spread out involuntarily. Even with the Eastern Emperor bell and the Golden Lion King, Xiao Chun did not dare to be careless. Uchi, in terms of aura, Xiao Chun was at an absolute disadvantage. He did not want to waste time with him. With a thought, the Golden Lion King spat out a golden flame at Chang Siyuan. Chi, a sword chi streaked across, and the golden flame was sliced in half, flying to the sides. Shua, Chang Siyuan's figure flashed. He was like a ghost, flying to Xiao Chen's side. A sword light flashed, and his sword appeared before Xiao Chun. Dang! Another strand of yellow chi slid down from the Eastern Emperor bell like glass. Before Xiao Chun could react, it automatically blocked this sword strike. Dang! 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 In the blink of an eye, Chang Siyuan sent out several hundred sword strikes. His speed was extremely fast. However, every time he did so, he was blocked by the yellow chi from the Eastern Emperor bell. The Eastern Emperor bell was indeed the strongest defensive secret treasure of a human race. Even though its Tao patterns were completely shattered, it still had such might. Xiao Chen revealed a calm expression as he shouted, Dang! 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 The Eastern Emperor bell gave off a long chime, and a ripple spread out in all directions. Chang Siyuan bore the brunt of it and was immediately knocked back. When the bell chime spread out, Xiao Chun felt dizzy. He could not help but feel astonished. He quickly stopped the bell chime. In the end, he could not use an incomplete secret treasure. Xiao Chun controlled the Golden Lion King and leaped into the air, causing the ground to tremble. Its mountain-like body pressed down on Chang Siyuan. Chang Siyuan's figure spun rapidly, changing his position very quickly. As he dodged the attacks, he sent out strands of resplendent sword chi at Xiao Chun. However, Xiao Chun, who had the Eastern Emperor bell, was in an invincible position. Streams of yellow chi descended from above, blocking all the attacks. Mountain-breaking chop. Suddenly, Chang Si-Yuan shouted. The light on his sword was withdrawn. An earth-ranked martial technique, a peak strike, struck the yellow chi violently. The might of an earth-ranked martial technique executed by a medial-grade martial saint was much stronger than Xiao Qin's dragon-seizing hand. Furthermore, all the attacks were focused on one point. A ripple appeared on the yellow chi, and a huge force was transmitted. Xiao Chun, who was on the back of the Golden Lion King, was forced back a few steps before he could stabilize himself. Xiao Chun was startled. A fiery light flashed in his right eye, and a purple flame spewed out at Chang Si-Yuan. The flame turned into a whirlpool, spinning continuously. Chang Si-Yuan spread his arms wide and quickly retreated. In the blink of an eye, he dodged the spinning purple thunder true fire. He slowly landed on the ground and looked at the Eastern Emperor bell above Xiao Chen's head. He was deep in thought, but he could not figure it out. Xiao Chun controlled the Eastern Emperor bell and the Golden Lion King at the same time. The essence in his body was like an open dam leaking out. He could not help but feel very anxious. Shua! Just at this moment, for some unknown reason, the Eastern Emperor bell above his head made a dang-dang sound and turned back into a small, exquisite bell. It fell into Xiao Chen's hands. What's going on? Xiao Chen was dumbfounded. It was clearly repaired, it was just that the Dao patterns were not complete. I also placed my imprint on it. Why can't I use it now? A bright light flashed in Chang Si-Yuan's eyes. His figure moved again, and a sword light soared into the sky, hacking down at Xiao Chun. The situation was critical. There was no time to think. Xiao Chun collected his thoughts, and a clap of thunder resounded in the sky. He executed the rushing thunder saber techniques, drawing the saber. The saber gave off a bright light as it clashed with his sword strike. Bang! Xiao Chen's body was knocked flying, and he landed heavily on the ground. He rolled back continuously, and the wound on his chest reopened again. It was incomparably painful. It looks like there is no more chance. An inferior-grade martial master challenging a medial-grade martial saint is simply seeking death. Xiao Chun, who was lying on the ground, smiled bitterly to himself. He originally thought that by relying on the Eastern Emperor bell and the Golden Lion King, he might have chance. Only when he truly fought did he realize how wrong he was. His opponent's speed and strength were much higher than his. The Golden Lion King could not even touch him. Just like that, he was already in an undefeatable position. However, now that I know someone is following me, I have achieved my goal. Xiao Chun thought to himself. This person does not have Saber City identity token on him. The most important thing is that this person uses a sword. That is to say, this person was not sent by Ge Yunbin. At the very least, it is not the worst-case scenario. Berserk! Xiao Chun gave an order in his heart. The Golden Lion King on the ground immediately gave off a boundless, baleful aura. Its speed increased significantly, and it entangled Chang Si-Yuan, preventing him from chasing after Xiao Chun. Lightning descend. Xiao Chun used another inferior-grade spirit stone. His essence was immediately replenished. Before he left, he summoned out bolts of lightning, continuously annoying Chang Si-Yuan. To a medial-grade martial saint, the might of this lightning descend was negligible. However, when it struck the body, it was hard to avoid pain. At this moment, he was entangled by the berserk Golden Lion King. Xiao Chen did not have the time to dodge the bolts of lightning. Not long after, he was struck by a few bolts of lightning. His skin was char-black, and all his hair was standing on end. He was in an extremely sorry state. Chang Si-Yuan was so angry that smoke came out of his 7 orifices. However, he could not do anything to Xiao Chun. At this moment, the speed of this Golden Lion King, which was the size of a small mountain, had increased significantly. It entangled Chang Si-Yuan, and he had no way to deal with Xiao Chun. It's about time. The berserk Golden Lion King will not be able to last much longer. Xiao Chun smiled faintly. A silver warship appeared, and he leaped off gently, drifting away. Before he left, he gave the Golden Lion King a deep look. He felt that it was a pity. After the Golden Lion King went berserk, there was no way to use it a second time. it would be very difficult to find good materials for it. Back in Saber City, Xiao Chun returned to his courtyard. He sat down cross-legged and circulated the purple thunder divine incantation. There was a small wound on his chest that could not be healed. There was always a cold chi lingering on the wound. If he could not expel the cold chi, Xiao Chun would die from blood loss sooner or later. Chapter 148. After Xiao Chun advanced to Martial Grandmaster, the clear spring in his body had turned into a gushing river. The tiny blue dragon had also grown significantly larger and was churning in the river. Xiao Chun could clearly feel that the gushing river had not only much more essence than before, but it was also more ferocious, surging, and purer. The essence in his body circulated for a great cycle. Finally, under Xiao Chun's control, he carefully washed the wound on his chest. A trace of cold chi drifted out from the wound. Xiao Chun's face lit up with joy. This cold chi could be expelled. Otherwise, Xiao Chun would not be able to do anything about it. He might even bleed to death. However, what Xiao Chun did not expect was that the cold chi contained in this tiny wound was much more than he had imagined. Xiao Chun did not eat or drink. He circulated his essence for 2 days and 2 nights before the cold chi was completely expelled. Xiao Chun got up and felt like his entire body was about to collapse. He walked to the wooden bed step by step and collapsed on his back, falling unconscious. Xiao Chun slept for 20 hours. When he woke up, he felt much more refreshed. Xiao Chun's stomach was rumbling from hunger. After he washed up, he quickly found a restaurant to satisfy his craving for good food. Inside the restaurant, Xiao Chun started to think about the details of this mission. Firstly, this mission did not make sense. Furthermore, he was sure that the mysterious martial saint was not one of Gobinyan's men. When Xiao Chun thought of the intense competition for spots in the intersect, he thought of a possibility. Could it be that because the spots were limited, Gobinyan wanted Xiao Chun to back off? However, some people could not hold back and wanted to deal with Xiao Chun once and for all. The more he thought about it, the more likely it seemed. Xiao Chun smacked the table heavily and smiled coldly in his heart. I want to see who is playing tricks behind my back. After settling the bill, Xiao Chun walked quickly to the city lord's residence. The cultivator guarding the door recognized Xiao Chun's appearance. After he reported his arrival, he brought Xiao Chun in. The city lord was still receiving guests and could not see him for the time being. He could only ask him to wait in the side hall. Xiao Chun smiled indifferently and did not say anything. After that person left, he immediately took out a small bird sculpture from the universe ring. After executing the life bestowal spell, the little bird flapped its wings and flew out the door. Xiao Chun attached his spiritual sense to it. Controlling the bird to fly around the city lord's mansion, he finally found Gu Bingyun in the main hall. In the great hall, Gu Bingyun was speaking with the Yunyang city's Zhang clan head. The Zhang clan head smiled faintly. City Lord Gu, this immortal cloud life extending pill of mine is not an ordinary immortal cloud life extending pill. It contains the extremely rare yellow springs grass. It can extend one's lifespan by 40 years. My cultivation has long been stuck at the peak of the Martial Highness realm. However, City Lord Gu, you are at the peak of the Martial King realm. With another 40 years to live, your chances of becoming a martial emperor will increase by leaps and bounds. Once you become a martial emperor, your lifespan will increase by another 100 years. Zhang clan. Xiao Chun frowned. Could it be that Yunyang City's Zhang clan? With a thought, Zhang Xian carefully controlled the bird to fly a little further forward. When Gu Binyan heard this, he smiled faintly and said, "Old Zhang, don't worry. He will know when to retreat. With his strength, he will not be able to complete the mission I gave him." The Zhang clan head muttered to himself for a while before saying, "I received news that that person has already completed the mission City Lord gave him." Gu Yanbin's expression changed. He placed the teacup in his hand heavily on the table and said sullenly, "Old Zhang, you have to be clear about this. This is someone that Miss Feng recommended. Do you dare to mess around with him?" Old Zhang smiled gently. "City Lord, don't worry. Naturally, I would not dare to mess around with someone that Miss Feng recommended. Many of my Yunyang City's businesses have dealings with the Feng clan. How could I dare to ruin my own livelihood? Gu Yunbin's expression relaxed, and he slowly said, "It's good that you know. However, this makes things difficult for me. The inner sect has always been very strict. This is because the distribution of resources is very standard. If it were not for Lung Tianyue's mistake, there would not be a spot for Tianyue Peak." Gu Yunbin's eyes lit up as he looked at the peak-grade Immortal Cloud Life extending pill on the table. He was already 120 years old and did not have much lifespan left. This Immortal Cloud Life extending pill held a fatal attraction for him. He had been stuck at peak Martial King for many years. If he could not advance to Martial Monarch, he would turn into a pile of dust and stop advancing on the path of cultivation. To the people of the world, a Martial King was an existence that they could only look up to. If a regular person could become a martial saint in their lifetime, they would already be praying to Buddha and the gods. However, Gu Yunbin knew that this was nothing. The higher one stood, the more insignificant one would feel. The more one was reluctant to part with this world, the more stubborn one was on the path of cultivation. They were not willing to turn into a pile of dust and be forgotten by the world after 100 years. Gu Yunbin's face sank. After thinking for a long time, he sighed and finally said, "I can only let this person enter Qingyun Peak. I will leave the spot for Tianyue Peak for your grandson." When the Zhang clan head heard this, he revealed an expression of joy. He smiled and said, "In that case, I will have to trouble City Lord. I will take my leave first and wait for your news." After the Zhang clan head left, Gu Yunbin picked up the jade bottle containing the Immortal Cloud Life extending pill. He rubbed it repeatedly with a smile on his face. He stood up and left the hall. Xiao Chun quickly controlled the small bird to follow behind him silently. After a while, Xiao Chun arrived at his own bedroom. He opened the jade bottle and examined it carefully. "City Lord, the person that Miss Feng introduced has been waiting in the side hall for a long time." A cultivator's voice came from outside the door. Xiao Chun cursed in his heart. "So I've been waiting here for so long. To think that I only report this now." When he thought about how long it took the previous time, he could not help but feel even angrier. Yunbin frowned slightly. "I just started appraising it. To think that he picked this time to come. I can only appraise it later." He placed the Immortal Cloud Life extending pill on the table and opened the door. "Let's go." After Gu Yunbin left, Xiao Chen's spiritual sense detected the Immortal Cloud Life extending pill in the room. Perhaps it was because Gu Bingyun was in a hurry to leave. He did not bring it with him. Should I just take it away? Damn it, this fellow nearly caused me to die. Why should I be polite to him? Xiao Chen made up his mind. He did not hesitate and controlled the small bird to fly into the room through the ventilation hole. After the small bird entered, it immediately grabbed the Immortal Cloud Life extending pill on the table and flew out. Xiao Chen was somewhat nervous. He was afraid that someone would see him, so he controlled the small bird to fly high. After a while, the small bird flew safely into Xiao Chen's hands. Xiao Chen quickly withdrew his spell and placed the wooden bird and the Immortal Cloud Life extending pill into his universe ring. Just as he finished doing all this, the door to the side hall opened. Gu Yunbin walked in with a smile on his face. He said, "Nephew Yi Chun, have you completed your mission?" Xiao Chun was mildly astonished, but his expression did not change. He stood up and bowed. "Greetings, Senior City Lord." This junior was fortunate enough to not fail the mission and managed to kill a rank 5 ice ape. After Xiao Chun spoke, he took out the corpse of the ice ape. Gu Binyun's expression changed slightly. Although he had heard this news from the Zhang clan head, he still could not believe it when he saw it for himself. A superior grade martial master actually killed a rank 5 spirit beast. This was unbelievable. He looked at Xiao Chun again, and his eyes lit up. Xiao Chun had actually advanced to inferior grade martial grandmaster. My eyes were actually blind. Only now did I discover that nephew has advanced to martial grandmaster. Congratulations. Gu Yunbin looked at Xiao Chun and smiled faintly. However, he felt it was a pity in his heart. This person might really be a talent. Xiao Chen's etiquette was not bad. He said humbly, "I still have to thank Senior City Lord." If it were not for the battle with this rank 5 spirit beast, I would not have been able to advance to Martial Grandmaster so smoothly. Gu Yunbin's expression froze. Even for someone as smart as him, when he saw Xiao Chen's serious expression, he could not tell if Xiao Chen was mocking him or if he was sincerely thanking him. Xiao Chen smiled embarrassedly. There is no need to thank me. Being able to advance is your own good fortune. You can continue keeping the corpse of this spirit beast. Later, I will send someone to bring you to Lingyun Mountain Range. Xiao Chen's emotions were somewhat complicated. He did not inspect the spirit beast's corpse carefully. He called someone over and said, "Bring this little brother to Lingyun Mountain Range and send him to Qingyun Peak. Bring my identity token there." When this person heard the words Qingyun Peak, his expression was clearly stunned. His eyes were filled with astonishment. After he received Gu Yunbin's pure gold identity token, he reacted and said, "All right, Brother Yi, please follow me." This was the second time Xiao Chen had heard of Qingyun Peak. Previously, he had guessed it in his heart. Now that he saw this person's expression, he was sure that this Qingyun Peak was not a good place to go. However, it was not convenient for Xiao Chen to question him. He followed that person and started chatting along the way. Xiao Chen knew that this person's surname was Tang and his given name was Ding Tian. He was the deputy chief steward of the city lord's residence. He had a lot of authority in Saber City. It would not be an exaggeration to say that he was below only one person and above tens of thousands. However, he was very humble. Along the way, he explained to Xiao Chen the things to take note of in the Heavenly Saber Pavilion's inner sect. The Heavenly Saber Pavilion's inner sect was split into 7 branches. There were 7 main peaks in the Lingyun Mountain Range. These 7 branches were stationed on top of them. Every main peak had different requirements for their disciples. The saber techniques and movement techniques they learned were also different. Aside from the Pavilion Master, who had the most authority in the Heavenly Saber Pavilion, the peak masters of the various main peaks were next. Aside from them, there was also the Law Enforcement Hall, the Elders' Assembly, and various other organizations. Tang Ding Tian made it clear that there were many forbidden areas in the inner sect. Xiao Chen should never enter them. Otherwise, the consequences would be dire. No matter how powerful one's background was, the Law Enforcement Hall would not show any mercy. Xiao Chen saw that the two of them were somewhat familiar with each other. So, he asked the question in his heart, "Chief Manager Tang, can you tell me more about Qingyun Peak?" This was because Xiao Chen discovered that Tang Ding Tian spoke a lot. However, he intentionally or unintentionally avoided the topic of where Xiao Chen was going next. Qingyun Peak. Tang Ding Tian suddenly stopped speaking. After a while, he smiled awkwardly and said, "The city lord probably did not tell you. It is not convenient for me to tell you directly. Let's put it this way. Qingyun Peak is the weakest of the 7 main peaks. However, the competition there is less." "The weakest?" Xiao Chen smiled faintly in his heart. "That is nothing much. Looking at the situation of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion, the Peak Master should be at least a martial king. He should be more than capable of giving pointers to Xiao Chen." Chapter 149. What about Tianyue Peak? How strong is it? Xiao Chen asked out of curiosity. Tang Dingtian answered without hesitation. Among the 7 peaks, Tianyue Peak should be the strongest. Furthermore, the competition is also the most intense. As expected, Xiao Chen smiled to himself. Otherwise, it would not be worth an immortal cloud life extending pill. However, now that this life extending pill is in my hands, I wonder what expression Gu Yunbin will have. In the backyard of the city lord's residence, Tang Ding Tian slowly stopped. He took out Gu Yunbin's identity token and shone it at the empty ground. After a while, under Xiao Chen's surprised gaze, a sparkling and translucent jade ship appeared on the ground. Layers of mist spread out, and spiritual energy assaulted the nose. Ceremonial music rang out, and the sound of celestial music lingered in the ears. This was actually an ancient secret treasure that had its hull and dais preserved in perfect condition. Although it was not an offensive secret treasure, it was still very shocking. The ancient secret treasure was over 20,000 years ago. For it to be preserved in such perfect condition, It was not an exaggeration to say that it was a miracle. When Xiao Chun thought about his Eastern Emperor bell, he felt very depressed. Even now, he still did not know what went wrong with it. Tang Dingtian was very satisfied with Xiao Chen's surprised expression. He said, "Let's go." The two of them boarded the jade ship. Tang Dingtian casually threw the golden identity token in his hand. The identity token floated above the jade ship. After that, it stopped quietly and started spinning in the air. A golden aura was emitted from it. The jade ship was not Gu Yunbin's personal possession. Hence, it was not as convenient to control as Xiao Chen's silver warship. After a while, the formation on the jade ship activated. The body of the ship flashed with a multicolored light. The melodious sounds of various musical instruments rang out once again. The jade ship soared into the sky with a so sound. Tang Dingtian brought Xiao Chun into the interior of the ship. The rooms inside were all made of white jade. The tables and stools were all made of white jade. There were already prepared dishes and wine inside. Xiao Chun picked up the jade wine cup and thought of walking into the barren silver warship. He couldn't help but sigh in his heart. This difference was not ordinary. The two of them drank and chatted. After flying for a long time, Xiao Chun suddenly felt as though he had passed through a restriction. A massive pressure came over, and he quickly circulated his energy to resist it. Seeing this, Tang Dingtian quickly stopped him and said, "Relax, don't resist. This is only the first restriction. There are still 19 more, and each one is stronger than the last. If you resist, you'll be shocked to death." Xiao Chun was so scared that he broke out in a cold sweat and quickly stopped resisting. After a while, he finally felt a little better. After passing through a dozen more restrictions, Tang Dingtian stood up and said, "Let's go. We're here." The two of them walked out of the cabin and stood on the bow of the ship, surrounded by fluttering white clouds. Xiao Chun looked down, and a magnificent scene appeared before his eyes, causing him to exclaim in admiration. The surroundings were filled with towering mountain ranges. Occasionally, birds would fly by in the clouds. When Xiao Chun looked carefully, he noticed that many of the birds were carrying people. Those who recognized Tang Dingtian would smile and greet him when they passed by. When Xiao Chun looked around, there were mountains and forests on the majestic peaks of the clouds. The mountains were filled with lush greenery, and there were exquisite ancient buildings. There were also lone peaks that rose from the ground and rushed into the sky. It was unknown how tall they were. It was a very magnificent sight. There was a smooth platform directly below the jade warship. It was a huge mountain that looked like it had been shaved off by someone. There were countless palaces on the platform. The size of this place was comparable to a small city. Tang Dingtian smiled faintly and said, "This is the heaven viewing platform of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. The Heavenly Saber Pavilion's main hall is here as well. It can be considered the core of the entire Heavenly Saber Pavilion. I will go and register your information now." The jade warship slowly descended, bringing the two of them towards the west side of the heaven viewing platform. The scene on the platform was very lively. When they got closer, Xiao Chun could clearly feel how huge the heaven viewing platform was. The jade warship stopped in front of a pavilion. Xiao Chun looked forward and saw an ancient wooden sign above the pavilion. There were 3 bold words on it: "Returning Cloud Hall." The two of them jumped off the jade warship. After Tang Dingtian showed Xiao Chun Yunbin's golden identity token, he led Xiao Chun in without any obstructions. The people inside all recognized Tang Dingtian. Tang Dingtian had a gentle smile on his face as he greeted everyone. The pavilion was very spacious. The crowd was sparse. It was very cold and cheerless. Xiao Chun followed behind Tang Dingtian. He curiously looked at the layout of the returning Cloud Hall. There were many martial scriptures carved on the surrounding wooden walls. This was an eye-opener for Xiao Chun. There were many superior-grade, profound, ranked martial techniques carved on the wooden walls. There were even a few earth-ranked martial techniques. "Brother Tang, are you here to spar with me again? You lost the last time and have yet to pay for the wine you owe me." A carefree voice came from the front. A man dressed in green walked over slowly. Tang Ding Tian smiled embarrassedly. Brother Lu Chen's memory is really good. I am here on official business. City Lord Gu is here to recommend someone. After Tang Ding Tian spoke, he handed Gu Yunbin's golden identity token to Lu Chen in Heavenly Saber Pavilion. The identity token not only represented a person's identity, but also their status. The ordinary people of Saber City had a wooden identity token. The outer disciples had an iron identity token, the inner disciples had a silver identity token, and the inner core disciples had a platinum identity token. As for the golden identity token, only people of the peak master level would have one. The effect of the identity token was very big. Many times, it would even recognize the identity token and not the person. When Gu Yunbin handed his identity token to Tang Ding Tian, it was equivalent to him coming personally. Tang Ding Tian's words could be considered his words. Oh, Lu Chen received the golden identity token and looked at it carefully. After a while, he looked at Xiao Chun, who was behind Tang Ding Tian, and said, "Is this the little brother I am recommending?" Tang Ding Tian nodded and introduced, "This is Lu Chen, the hall master of this place. He is also the youngest hall master in the history of the returning Cloud Hall. This is Yi Chun, a cultivator recommended by the Feng clan." Xiao Chen stepped forward and looked at Lu Chen. He was somewhat astonished. Lu Chen's handsome appearance did not look more than 30 years old. However, the feeling he gave Xiao Chen was very terrifying. His strength was unfathomable. Yi Chun greets Hall Master. Lu Chen smiled and nodded gently. He asked, "City Lord is recommending him to Tianyue Peak, right? It seems like only Tianyue Peak has a vacancy recently. Come over here and register with me." Tang Dingtian's expression froze for a while. He said somewhat embarrassedly, "This City Lord Ge is recommending Qingyan Peak, not Tianyue Peak." When Lu Chen heard this, the smile on his face froze. However, he immediately reacted and said, "Qingyan Peak? That's not bad. Senior Sister Ryue came to me a few days ago to rush me." Xiao Chen's expression did not change as he followed behind the two of them. They arrived at a room filled with rows of bookshelves. These bookshelves were much taller than ordinary bookshelves. They were at least 4 meters tall. There were all sorts of numbers carved on the bookshelves. Lu Chen walked inside and casually opened a book. A black book slowly floated down. Tang Dingtian handed over Xiao Chen's information. Lu Chen took a look and smiled. To be able to become an inferior grade martial grandmaster at the age of 16, your talent is pretty good. I believe Senior Sister Yuru will be satisfied this time. After they finished registering, Lu Chen led the two of them to the top floor of the returning Cloud Hall. He said to Xiao Chen, "The creation of the identity token will take another 2 days. I will send someone to deliver it to Qingyan Peak." On the top floor, Lu Chen sent out a messenger pigeon. Tang Dingtian explained to the side that this was to inform the Peak Master of Qingyun Peak to send someone to receive Xiao Chen. The three of them were very patient. They waited quietly. After a while, a green bird flew over from the horizon. On it was a graceful girl. As Xiao Chen stood below, he could only see a blurry figure. However, he could feel the beauty of the girl. Lu Chen looked at the sky and smiled faintly. "They're here." There's a melodious bird cry, and the green bird slowly stopped at the top of the building. A girl wearing green, tight-fitting robes nimbly jumped down from the green bird. The tight-fitting cultivator's robes made the girl's fiery figure and exquisite figure very obvious. Her long hair draped over her shoulders, and her face was as warm as jade. She had the charm of a mature girl, without any hint of the inexperience of a young girl. When Xiao Chen saw the girl walking over leisurely, he praised her in his heart. Based on her figure and face, she would definitely be a top-tier older sister in the hearts of the otakus in his previous life. What astonished Xiao Chen was the identity token on the girl's waist. It was an eye-catching golden identity token. However, based on her age, she was definitely not more than 20 years old. Although she was a medial-grade martial saint, she was still far from being a peak master. However, no one dared to wear an identity token in the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. Could this girl really be the peak master of Qingyan Peak? Just as Xiao Chen was feeling suspicious, the girl had already walked over quickly. After she glanced at Xiao Chun, she went to Lu Chen's side and took a look at Xiao Chen's information. Yi Chun, 16 years old, inferior grade, martial grandmaster. The girl's melodious voice read out slowly. After that, she said to Lu Chun, "Junior brother Lu Chun, are you trying to deceive me? Every time I come to you to ask for someone, you try to fool me." Lu Chun smiled. "No, senior sister Ru, I definitely did not do that this time. This time, he is someone recommended by the Feng clan. City Lord Gu arranged for him to be in Qingyan Peak." "Recommended by Feng Feishue?" Lu Riyue said softly. A light flashed in her clear eyes as she carefully sized up Xiao Chun. Just at this moment, Xiao Chen's heart skipped a beat. He felt a sharp killing qi heading towards him. This killing qi was very straightforward and direct as it rushed towards him. Shua! There was a flash of saber light. Under Xiao Chen's astonished gaze, Lu Riyue's 2-finger-wide, 1-meter-long saber was suddenly unsheathed. It gave off a cold light as it quickly chopped towards him. Lu Riyue's speed was very fast. Xiao Chen only saw a flash of a cold light, and the saber was already in front of him. Without any time to think, Xiao Chun did an iron plank bridge stance. He bent his legs and leaned back. The saber moved in front of Xiao Chen's face, and a few strands of his hair were easily cut off. Then, they slowly fell to the ground. Xiao Chun pushed his feet off the ground and executed the blue dragon cloud soaring art. His body flew backwards. Taking advantage of this opportunity, he quickly pulled out the lunar shadow saber. When Lu Riyue saw Xiao Chen's quick reaction, a trace of astonishment flashed in the depths of her eyes. She shouted softly, and the small saber in her hand gave off a buzzing sound. The sound was extremely joyful, reverberating in the air. Chapter 150. On the roof, everyone's weapons could not help but shake. Xiao Chun grasped the lunar shadow saber tightly, trying to struggle free. Xiao Chun thought to himself in astonishment, listening to the sword and communicating with it. It's listening to the sword and communicating with it again. This was the second person that Xiao Chun met who grasped this state since he came to Xia province. However, it was clear that Lu Riyue's listening to the sword and communicating with it was much stronger than Lung Liusu's. Back when he fought with Lung Liusu, his weapon did not have such a reaction. While Xiao Chun was astonished, Lu Riyue's figure flashed and arrived beside Xiao Chun. The saber in her hand chopped mercilessly at Xiao Chun. Dang! 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 Xiao Chun brandished his saber to block. When the weapons clashed, it gave off a metallic sound. Lu Riyue's speed became faster and faster. Soon, Xiao Chun could only see a blurry saber image. He could only rely on his intuition and continuously execute drawing the saber. What a fast saber! Xiao Chun was astonished. This should be the result of Lu Riyue suppressing her strength. The force of the saber was controlled to a level that Xiao Chun could endure. Xiao Chun had never seen such a fast saber before. The other party was not using any exquisite saber techniques. It was just a simple sweep, hack, push, slice, skim, chop, chop, and pierce. These were the 8 movements of the basic saber techniques. However, they caused Xiao Chun to be unable to retaliate. He could only continuously execute, drawing the saber to block. However, to continuously execute, drawing the saber required constant concentration. Furthermore, every time he executed drawing the saber, it would be blocked. Before the momentum of the rushing thunder saber could rise, it would be extinguished. This was a great taboo in the rushing thunder saber technique. Like this, Xiao Chen's stamina was depleting quickly. On the other hand, Lu Riyue did not seem to know fatigue. She did not stop her saber for even a moment. Huang. After a while, Lu Riyue sheathed her saber. Her charming face revealed a satisfied smile. She said, "Your reaction is not bad. However, your fundamentals are not solid enough. I can tell that you have not practiced for long enough." After she spoke, she walked over to Xiao Chun. Her lily-white hands pinched Xiao Chen's face. Xiao Chun was already very tired. When he saw this, he was startled. He did not know where he got the strength to take a big step back. He was so fast that he did not seem exhausted at all. Lu Chun and Tang Dingtian, who were next to him, could not help but laugh out loud when they saw that. They said immediately, "Little brother Yi Chun, don't worry. I'm just testing your bone age." Testing one's bone age was something that many sects would do. It was mainly to prevent people from falsely reporting their age and practicing fraud. Xiao Xiao from Xiao Xiao Chun. To Chun. To say. From Xiao Xiao Chun. Chun. To Chun started to test his age from to his chins to Xiao Xiao. They started to test Xiao Chin's bone age. This time, Xiao Chun did not dare to move. He just stood where he was. Lu Ria started to rub her hands rhythmically. The bones in Xiao Chin's upper body were so close. The faint fragrance from a girl entered Xiao Chin's nose. It caused Xiao Chin's heart to be in a mess. He did not even dare to breathe loudly. After a while, Lu Riyue withdrew her hands. She revealed a faint smile and said, "You are indeed 16 years old. A 16-year-old inferior grade martial grandmaster. You are slightly weaker than me back then, but still passable. You're Yi Chun, right? Call me master." Xiao Chun sweated profusely. He felt a headache coming. Since he came to the Heavenly Saber Pavilion, he must have thought of taking a master. However, even if Xiao Chun was beaten to death, he would never have imagined that his master would be such a girl who did not look much older than him. Seeing Xiao Chun remain silent, Lu Riyue raised her eyebrows. She said fiercely, "Are you not willing? Since you're not willing, then don't choose my Qinyan Peak. If I make a wasted trip, the consequences will be severe. Even Feng Feishue will not be able to protect you." Lu Riyue's right hand grasped her saber hilt. Her face revealed a murderous intent. She was prepared to draw her saber at any moment. Xiao Chun was speechless. This girl is too intrepid. Lu Chun had a gentle smile on his handsome face. He slowly walked over and said, "Yi Chun, you don't have to worry. If you enter Qinyan Peak, your stipend will not be lower than that of the other peaks. Furthermore, with senior sister Yulan's strength, it should not be a problem for her to teach you. In the future, if you become a core disciple, you can enter the Divine Saber Camp as well. The most important thing is that senior sister Yulan is now the acting peak master. If you become her disciple, your seniority will be the same as Brother Tang." Xiao Chun smiled bitterly in his heart. There were quite a lot of benefits. However, no matter how he thought about it, he felt that something was wrong. This Lu Riyue was only a few years older than him. It was hard for him to get over this hurdle in his heart. He could not help but lower his head. He glanced at the lunar shadow saber in his hand from the corner of his eye. His heart could not help but tighten. It had been almost half a year since he left Mo City. Didn't he come out to undo the seal on Ao Jiao in advance? This was a great opportunity. Coincidentally, Lu Riyue had grasped listening to the sword and communicating with it. Taking her as his master was clearly the best choice. After thinking this through, Xiao Chun knelt on one knee and said decisively, "Disciple Yi Chun, today I sincerely come to take Qinyan Peak's peak master, Lu Riyue, as my master. I hope master will grant me this wish." Actually, Xiao Chun already had a plan in his heart. After all, he was currently using an alias. Furthermore, he had changed his appearance. He could just fall out with her at any time. The murderous intent on Lu Riyue's face slowly disappeared. Her charming face revealed a gentle smile. She said seriously, "Qinyan Peak's Ru Generation's peak master, Lu Riyue, will accept Yi Chun as my disciple today. I will do my best to teach him seriously." After Lu Riyue spoke, she helped Xiao Chun up. She said to Lu Chun and Tang Dingtian, "The two of you have to be my Qinyan Peak's witnesses." Lu Chun smiled faintly. "Don't worry, I will immediately change Yi Chen's identity. I will also make a new identity token." Tang Dingtian took out a short saber from the universe ring and handed it to Xiao Chun. "Congratulations, Brother Yi, on becoming a disciple of Qinyan Peak. Take this short saber as my gift to you for taking you in as my disciple." Xiao Chun received the short saber and slowly pulled it out. A cold light flickered on the saber. It was actually an Earth-rank spirit weapon. This Tang Ding Tian was really willing to part with it. Lu Ryue smiled at Lu Chun. Junior brother Lu, shouldn't you do something as well? Chief Steward Tang gave you an Earth-rank spirit weapon. Lu Chun took out a book and smiled faintly. I can see that the aura in your body is unstable and abnormally chaotic. You must have learned too many things and are unable to unify them. When you have time, read this flowing cloud scripture. It will be beneficial to you. Xiaochen quickly gave his thanks and received it. This flowing cloud scripture was really good stuff. He had heard of it before. It was derived from the ancient martial scriptures and Daoist scriptures. It was very famous. Xiaochen did not expect that he would be able to obtain a handwritten copy of the flowing cloud scripture from Lu Chun after taking Lu Yueru as his master. This was a pleasant surprise. Lu Yueru brought Xiao Chun onto the green bird and bid farewell to the two of them. After that, the green bird flapped its wings and created a huge shockwave, bringing the two of them into the air. Tang Dingtian watched the two of them leave and said, I say, Brother Lu, you are really generous. Normally, when I ask you to borrow the flowing cloud scripture, I have to spend a lot of effort. Today, you are very straightforward, directly giving it away. Lu Chun turned around and smiled at him. You are not much better off than me. That dagger is called Magatama. It came from the hands of a Haotian. It is not an ordinary Earth-rank spirit weapon. Tang Dingtian sighed. I feel pity for this youth's talent. He had Miss Feng's recommendation letter and even hunted down a rank 5 spirit beast before he could obtain the qualifications to enter the inner sect. Gu Yunbin allowed him to enter Qingyun Peak. I really don't know what he was thinking. It is very strange. Lu Chun revealed an astonished expression. He hunted down a rank 5 spirit beast by himself? He is only an inferior grade martial master. How is this possible? Tang Dingtian withdrew his gaze and said, I'm afraid you will be even more astonished. When he hunted down the rank 5 spirit beast, he was only a peak superior grade martial master. He only advanced after that. Lu Chen's expression immediately changed. However, after a while, he laughed carefreely. Tang Dingtian did not understand. Lu Chen replied, Let's go and have a drink later. My treat today. High up in the sky, the green bird soared in the sky. Xiao Chun sat behind Lu Ryue and asked, Master, can I ask you a question? Lu Ryue smiled gently. When there is no one around, just call me Elder Sister Ryue like Feng Fei Shua does. I am not that much older than you, so I cannot bully you. Xiao Chen's heart skipped a beat. He finally understood why Lu Ryue dared to accept him as her disciple the first time they met. A large part of the reason was probably because he was acquainted with Feng Fei Shua. I would like to ask, how many inner disciples does our Qingyun Peak have? How many elders are there? And how many disciples does Elder Sister Ryue have? Xiao Chen had been curious about this question for a long time. Now that he had an opportunity, he could not help but ask in one breath. Lu Ryue turned her head and asked in a strange tone, Don't you know? Don't tell me that you came to Qingyun Peak without knowing anything. Suddenly, Xiao Chun had a bad feeling in his heart. He smiled bitterly. I really did not know anything before I entered Qingyun Peak. Lu Ryue felt a headache coming on. She said in a very grave tone, Before you came, the answers were all zeros. After you came, they were all ones. Xiao Chun felt dizzy. Although he already knew that Qingyun Peak was the weakest, he did not expect it to be so weak that there was not a single person there. Lu Ryue smiled. This is also the reason why I accepted you as my disciple. In this Qingyun Peak, there is no one to teach you. However, you don't have to think so much. There are benefits to having fewer people. With this peak master giving you special treatment, not many people in the Heavenly Saber Pavilion have such treatment. A peak master who is not even a martial king? It had to be known that the strength of the outer sex sect master, Gu Yunbin, was already a peak martial king. How could the strength of the inner sex peak master be low? However, Xiao Chun did not mind in the end. After all, he was here to learn listening to the sword and communicating with it. Listening to the sword and communicating with it was not related to strength. It did not mean that one would be able to grasp it just because they were strong. In the end, it was still about talent and comprehension. To Xiao Chun, having a master who knew listening to the sword and communicating with it was enough to make up for all of Lu Ruyue's disadvantages. After a while, a sharp, lonely peak appeared in front of Xiao Chun. It pierced the sky. There were clouds surrounding the peak. It was boundlessly hazy, making it hard to see clearly. Chapter 151. The forest on the peak was lush and verdant. Occasionally, there would be groups of buildings hidden in the greenery. The green bird carried the two of them and landed halfway up the mountain. Lu Riyue was the first to jump down. Then, she said to Xiao Chun, "This is Qingyun Peak. In the future, you will be one of my Qingyun Peak's people. Later, I will find someone to bring you around." Xiao Chun nodded his head and started to size up his surroundings carefully. There were tall trees all around him. There was a small platform in front of him, and there was a stretch of buildings. A young man quickly floated over from the front. His figure was strangely fast, and soon he arrived before the two of them. "Lu Suifeng, why are you here?" Xiao Chun exclaimed in astonishment when he saw this person's face. When Lu Suifeng saw Xiao Chun, he was astonished as well. "Yi Chun, why are you here?" When Lu Riyue saw that the two of them knew each other, she was stunned for a moment. Then she smiled and said, "It's great that you know each other. Suifeng, bring Yi Chun around Qingyun Peak. At the same time, help him find a place to stay. This is the disciple that I just accepted." Lu Suifeng had an expression of disbelief in his eyes. "That can't be. Sis, you can actually accept a disciple? This is too illogical. Are you asking for a beating? Hurry up and do something for me." Lu Riyue frowned and scolded jokingly. Lu Suifeng smiled and said, "Never mind, Brother Yi. Let me bring you around first. There are very few people on this Qingyun Peak. Otherwise, if you get lost, you might not even be able to find your way back." Lu Suifeng did not expect Lu Riyue and Lu Suifeng to be siblings. It was such a coincidence. Lu Suifeng brought Xiao Chun and started to wander around. The two of them chatted along the way. Lu Suifeng did not hide anything about Qingyun Peak and told Xiao Chun everything honestly. 20 years ago, the entire Heavenly Saber Pavilion suffered a calamity. Even the pavilion master at that time died in that calamity. Among the 7 peaks, Qingyun Peak suffered the greatest loss. Almost all the elders of the previous generation of Qingyun Peak died. Furthermore, the peak master, who was Lu Suifeng's father, lost his martial spirit in the calamity and became a cripple. Just like that, the entire Qingyun sect had completely declined. Without the older generation to hold down the fort, the younger disciples had almost all left in recent years. The disciples that joined the Heavenly Saber Pavilion all knew about Qingyun Peak. Naturally, no one would choose to go to a peak that did not even have a martial king. Some of the weaker cultivators wanted to fish in troubled waters and get close to Qingyun's sect. As for Lu Riyue, she did not think much of them. This resulted in the number of Qingyun Peak guests dwindling over the past 20-odd years. There was not a single official disciple. Xiao Chun felt suspicious as he asked, "What kind of calamity is it?" All the older generation of Qingyun Peak died. Even the Heavenly Saber Pavilion's pavilion master passed away. This is too horrifying. Lu Suifeng hesitated for a while before saying, "There is no harm in telling you. After all, it is not a secret. Every big sect in the Great Qin Nation has a large spatial crack sealed within. Originally, these seals were unbreakable. However, 1,000 years ago, the Thunder King, Sang Mu, came to the Heavenly Saber Pavilion and fought with the pavilion master at that time. At that time, the two of them, Sang Mu and the Heavenly Saber Pavilion's pavilion master, were peak martial sages. The shockwaves from their battle could easily flatten a peak. The shockwaves from their battle affected the seal left by the 3 holy masters. The seal was damaged. Every once in a while, we have to invite the people of the 3 holy masters to repair it. However, 20 years ago, it was the divine martial gates' turn to repair it. In the end, something unexpected happened, and they arrived late. Lu Suifeng paused for a while before continuing. "You should be able to guess what happened after that. All sorts of demons from the demonic world came out. There was even a demon master. I heard from the older generation that the sky of the entire Lingyun mountain range was covered in demonic chi. After the battle, the Heavenly Saber Pavilion became like this. Actually, Lu Suifeng did not know much. 20 years ago, he was not even born yet. All this was what he heard from the older generation. Hence, there were some parts that he was not clear about. Xiao Chun looked at the lunar shadow saber in his hand, and his heart tightened. No wonder the old man outside the city said that if people in the Heavenly Saber Pavilion knew that he was the successor of the Thunder King, he would not have a good ending. So that was the reason. If it were not for the Thunder King's arrival, the Heavenly Saber Pavilion would not have suffered such a calamity. Suddenly, Xiao Chun thought of something. He said, "That's right. Where is your father now? Is he not at Qingyun Peak anymore?" Lu Suifeng pointed to the summit and said, "He spends most of his time at the summit of Qingyun Peak. They say he is in closed-door training. I only see him a few times a year." Xiao Chun heaved a sigh of relief. The old man outside the city also did not have a martial spirit. It was easy for people to associate him with that. However, it seemed like that was not the case now. After the two of them walked for a distance, a loud shout came from the front. Xiao Chun looked forward and discovered that it was the tall and sturdy youth that he had seen before. His arms and legs were bound with metal blocks, and he was practicing his fist techniques. Beside him, there was a delicate-looking girl practicing some kind of interesting fist technique. Her speed was very slow, but it looked very charming. When Xiao Chun looked carefully, he discovered that it was similar to the Wing Chun fist of his previous life. Lu Suifeng explained, "This is Xiao Yang and Xiao Meng. They are the descendants of an old friend of my father. They grew up with me. However, their physiques are special. They are unable to condense a martial spirit." "What martial technique are they practicing? I don't think I have seen it before," Xiao Chun asked suspiciously. Without a martial spirit, one was equivalent to a cripple. Back then, he was mocked by the Xiao clan for many years because he was unable to condense a martial spirit. Lu Suifeng smiled and said, "It is passed down in the family. Don't underestimate them. Even if that Xiao Yang was a regular martial master, he would not be a match for him." When Xiao Yang heard the voices of the two of them, he took a careful look. His face revealed a pleasantly surprised smile. He removed the metal from his arms and legs and quickly ran over. "Elder Brother Suifeng, has our benefactor already entered the inner sect?" Xiao Chun felt a little uncomfortable. He smiled gently and said, "It is just a small matter. Xiao Yang, you really don't have to take it to heart. Just call me Yi Chun. We are all of the same age. There is no need to be so reserved." Xiao Yang's honest face revealed a simple smile. He said seriously, "You saved my life and Xiao Meng's. It is definitely not a small matter." Lu Suifeng, who was at the side, said, "Yi Chun has already been accepted as a disciple by my elder sister. In the future, he will be staying at Qingyun Peak." When Xiao Yang heard this, he was pleasantly surprised. He said, "Is that so? In that case, Xiao Meng and I will go help out and tidy up the room. In the future, if Elder Brother Chun has any matters, you can instruct us at any time." After Xiao Yang spoke, he brought Xiao Meng and rushed forward. Lu Suifeng could not stop them at all. He could not help but smile bitterly. Why do I not feel that these two fellows are usually so hard-working? The two of them continued to walk towards the peak. Along the way, they saw many tall buildings. However, they were all empty. There was not a single person in them. Finally, Lu Suifeng brought Xiao Chun to a pavilion halfway up the mountain. There was a small stream flowing slowly beside the pavilion. The stream was boundlessly green, and there was the sound of splashing water. There was a cool breeze in the pavilion. After walking for a long time, the two of them were already sweating. When the cool breeze blew, it was very refreshing. Lu Suifeng said softly, "If we go further up, we will reach the important places of Qingyun Peak. Some of the library halls and Qingyun Pavilion are up there. There are people from the main hall standing guard there. If there is nothing important, it is best not to go there." "That's right, Yi Chun. I feel something is strange. Of the 7 inner sects, why did you choose Qingyun Peak? With your talent, you should be able to enter the other sections." Xiao Chun thought for a while and decided to tell the truth. "I came to Qingyun Peak mainly for the sake of learning listening to the sword and communicating with it. listening to the sword and communicating with it? You chose the right place. In the entire Heavenly Saber Pavilion, only my elder sister and Lung Liusu know listening to the sword and communicating with it. However, listening to the sword and communicating with it is somewhat ethereal. It is too much of a test of comprehension and talent. Lu Suifeng said in astonishment. He did not expect Xiao Chun to come to Qinyan Peak for this reason. Xiao Chun thought, Lu Suifeng is Lu Ryue's younger brother. His understanding of listening to the sword and communicating with it would definitely be better than others. So he asked, I heard people say that listening to the sword and communicating with it is innate. If you're not born with it, no matter how talented you are, you will not be able to learn it. Is that true? Lu Suifeng smiled gently. Nonsense. My elder sister grasped it on her own. However, no one knows how she learned it. A light flashed in Xiao Chen's eyes. Lu Ryue's listening to the sword and communicating with it was actually grasped by herself. However, he felt that it was much stronger than Lung Liusu's. However, listening to the sword and communicating with it is something that can only be chanced upon. If you focus on it, you will not be able to comprehend anything in your entire life. It is best not to be too stubborn about it. Otherwise, it will delay your cultivation. Xiao Chun smiled faintly, indicating that he understood. If he grasped listening to the sword and communicating with it, it would be of great help to the weapons he learned in the future. A normal person might need to learn a martial technique for a few days or even a few months. However, a person who grasped listening to the sword and communicating with it might be able to learn it in a day. Furthermore, they would be able to understand it more thoroughly. However, this kind of state was too ethereal. Many people pursued it bitterly. In the end, not only did they not learn it, they even delayed their cultivation. There are many such examples. Xiao Chun grasped the lunar shadow saber tightly. He felt somewhat conflicted in his heart. He did not know if he would end up like these people, obtaining nothing in the end. However, for the sake of his oath, he had to give it a try. If he did not even have the courage to try, he would seem too weak. After that, Lu Suifeng brought Xiao Chun back to his residence. There were very few people in Qinyan Peak. Xiao Chun was allocated a large courtyard. Xiao Yang and Xiao Meng were helping him clear up the rubbish and dust in the courtyard. By the time everyone left, it was already dusk. As the sun set, it looked very different from the mountain. Xiao Chun did not rest for long. After he returned to his room, he immediately entered into a state of cultivation. The purple thunder divine incantation slowly circulated in his body. The surrounding spiritual energy was like a mist pouring into his body in an endless stream. What a dense spiritual energy! Xiao Chun sighed in his heart. The spiritual energy here was at least twice as dense as at the foot of the mountain. It was even denser than the strange cave at the source of the Zhuang River at the edge of Savage Forest. No wonder the competition between the outer sect and the inner sect was so intense. Cultivating here, the environment was much better than at the foot of the mountain. Chapter 152. Xiao Chun had just advanced to inferior grade martial grandmaster not long ago. He needed to stabilize his cultivation. The surging spiritual energy circulated in his body for a great cycle. Finally, it all flowed into his dantian. It was like a surging flood. The river instantly swelled up. The tiny blue dragon swam freely in the river, occasionally creating splashes. These splashes were the purest essence. With just a thought from Xiao Chun, the river immediately surged with a huge wave. A huge amount of essence poured out from his dantian and flowed into the various meridians in his body. The essence permeated his meridians and entered his skin, flesh, and bones, nourishing Xiao Chen's strong physical body. When the essence was exhausted, the spiritual energy that he absorbed from the surroundings flowed back into his dantian, repeating this process over and over again. Time passed very quickly while Xiao Chun was cultivating. When Xiao Chun opened his eyes, the sky was already bright. After stretching his legs, Xiao Chun felt refreshed, filled with boundless energy. Knock, knock, knock. There was a series of knocks on the door. Lu Ryue's melodious voice could be heard. "Little disciple, stop sleeping in. It's time to wake up." Just as Lu Ryue was about to continue knocking, the door to Xiao Chen's room suddenly opened. Lu Ryue looked at the energetic Xiao Chen and said, "You are in good spirits. Let's go. In the future, remember to go to the dueling grounds punctually at this time. If you don't go, you will be punished." Xiao Chen nodded and said, "It seems like I have not eaten breakfast yet. It's best not to. Otherwise, your stomach will spoil," Lu Ryue said casually with a smile on her face. "That's serious?" Xiao Chen had a bad feeling in his heart. He followed Lu Ryue and arrived at a vast dueling ground. This dueling ground was very large. It was completely made of the hard heavenly mountain stone. Just the ceiling alone was 100 meters tall. When standing in the middle, one would feel very small. The area of the dueling ground was very obvious. There were all sorts of equipment. However, there was only Lu Suifeng in the huge dueling ground, practicing his saber alone. It seemed very spacious. When Lu Suifeng saw Xiao Chen, he smiled faintly as a greeting. "Elder sister Ryue, do you have any powerful saber techniques to impart to me?" When they arrived at the dueling grounds, Xiao Chen felt much more relaxed. He said with a smile on his face. Lu Ryue mocked, "You want to learn a powerful saber technique with your foundation? Not to mention a heaven-ranked saber technique. Even if it was an earth-ranked saber technique, you would not be able to learn its essence." This was not the first time Lu Ryue said that Xiao Chen's foundation was weak. Xiao Chen was not convinced, even though he only learned saber techniques halfway through. However, ever since he started cultivating, he had been diligent and had never slacked off. Why did he always say that his foundation was weak? When Lu Ryue saw Xiao Chen's expression, she was not convinced. She smiled. "If you are not convinced, then show me your most powerful saber technique. I guarantee that it will not exceed the strength of a martial grandmaster." Xiao Chen also wanted to test Lu Ryue's strength. Back in the returning Cloud Hall, because of Lu Ryue's sudden attack, he was not convinced in his heart. It could be said that he was waiting for this opportunity. Holding the lunar shadow saber horizontally in front of him, Xiao Chen smiled faintly. "In that case, watch carefully. I will only execute the fastest saber technique in the world once. I will definitely convince you." Kassier. A cold light flashed, and the lunar shadow saber was instantly drawn from its scabbard. The instant the saber light was drawn, there was a clap of thunder behind Xiao Chen. The lunar shadow saber flickered with electricity. Drawing the saber, Xiao Chen's aura slowly rose. The saber light was extremely fast as it hacked at Lu Ryue. At such a close distance, and making the first move, Xiao Chen was absolutely confident that he could force Lu Ryue back. As long as Lu Ryue retreated, the rushing thunder saber technique would instantly unleash a chain of attacks. His aura would slowly rise to the peak. Even if he could not defeat her, she would not dare to underestimate him. Dang! A melodious metallic sound rang out. Xiao Chen did not even see how Lu Ryue drew her small saber. He discovered that the small saber in Lu Ryue's hand was even faster. Even though it was launched later, it arrived first and hacked at the lunar shadow saber. A huge force came from the saber. Xiao Chen's right hand, which was holding the saber, felt numb. He felt an urge to throw the lunar shadow saber away. The huge force was transmitted into Xiao Chen's body. He took 2 steps back before he could stand stably. Lu Ryue's swift saber strike was still in his mind. That was just an ordinary saber strike. It was not like drawing the saber, which was a martial technique. However, its speed was boundlessly fast. However, Xiao Chen was still unconvinced. He had not executed the rushing thunder saber technique yet. If he had the opportunity to execute it, Lu Ryue would definitely look at him in a different light. Xiao Chen shouted and took a ferocious step forward. Thunder roared again, and the gushing river in his dantian splashed up. It turned into a strand of vast essence and poured into the saber. Saber lights appeared everywhere as Xiao Chen executed drawing the saber again. However, the result did not change. Lu Riyue did not move from her original position. The small saber in her hand arrived first and easily broke the saber strike. Seeing Xiao Chan flying back, the corner of Lu Riyue's lips curled up. A faint smile appeared on her charming face. This is the fastest saber technique in the world? It is merely SOSO. After being ridiculed by a girl who was only a few years older than him, Xiao Chan became anxious. He executed drawing the saber again, but the result did not change. Xiao Chan moved back again and waved his hand. No way, you cannot block this move of mine. Otherwise, I will not be able to execute the more powerful moves. Lu Riyue burst out in laughter. A rare, mischievous expression appeared on her face as she said, "As you wish. Let me experience the fastest saber technique in the world." A gleam flashed in Xiao Chen's eyes. The moment Lu Riyue said that, he immediately executed drawing the saber. Lu Riyue flew back, and Xiao Chen quickly executed the arc-light chop. Dang! Xiao Chen's hand was still in the stance of the arc-light chop. However, a cold light flashed and struck the hilt of the lunar shadow saber. This saber strike was fast and accurate. It struck the hilt of the saber. The space between Xiao Chen's fingers and the hilt of the saber did not injure Xiao Chen's fingers at all. Lu Riyue sheathed her saber. Her pretty face was solemn, and she emitted a killing intent from her body. The fastest saber technique in the world. I will only use one saber strike. I will show you what is the true drawing the saber. Right after she spoke, Lu Riyue had already drawn the small saber in her hand. The instant the saber left the scabbard, a strong wind appeared out of nowhere. The saber light was extremely resplendent and dazzling. The dazzling saber light caused Xiao Chen's eyes to hurt. He instinctively closed his eyes. When he opened his eyes again, the strong wind had already stopped. Lu Riyue sheathed her saber and stood there motionlessly, as if everything that happened earlier was just an illusion. However, Xiao Chan felt a chill on his neck. He extended his hand to touch it and felt a faint pain. It was unknown when a small wound had appeared on his neck. He could not help but be startled. If this wound was any deeper, he would have died. However, he did not react at all. The resplendent saber light lit up, and in the blink of an eye, he was struck. Furthermore, in the instant she drew her saber, Lu Riyue had controlled her strength to the extreme. The so-called withdrawing and releasing as one wished, killing in the blink of an eye was a description of Lu Riyue's current state. Xiao Chan could not help but find it funny. In the past, he thought that he was already very fast when he drew his saber. Today, he was completely convinced. Lu Riyue smiled faintly. Little Yi-chun, do you still dare to doubt master strength? Xiao Chan smiled embarrassedly. I don't dare anymore. I will listen to elder sister Riyue in the future. Can you start teaching me now? A beautiful smile appeared on Lu Riyue's face. However, when Xiao Chan saw this, he trembled in fear. There's some training blocks over there. Tie 100 kilograms of metal to me and run 20 laps around a dueling ground. You're not allowed to use essence. If I discover you using essence, I will seal your acupoints and double the punishment. Xiao Chen looked at the huge dueling ground. If he ran one lap around it, it would be at least 1,000 meters. He could not help but feel a headache. This, elder sister Riyue, isn't this a little too much? Lu Riyue smiled faintly. First, you tease master. Now, you contradict me. Add another 10 laps. Damn! Xiao Chan cursed in his heart. This Lu Riyue looks like a gentle big sister. I did not expect her to be so heartless when she becomes ruthless. When one was under someone else's roof, they had no choice but to lower their head. Xiao Chan helplessly walked to the side of the dueling ground and slowly tied the metal to his body. Then, he started to jog. Fortunately, his physical body was not weak, so he did not find it too difficult. Lu Suifeng looked at the jogging Xiao Chan with a smile on his face. He walked to Lu Riyue's side and said, Sis, this rushing thunder saber technique has been used by Xiao Chan to create thunder with every saber strike. It is very imposing and can be said to be pretty good. Why do you still want to deal a blow to him? Lu Riyue revealed a faint smile on her pretty face. This fellow is too arrogant. He should have a lot of combat experience. If you do not deal a blow to him, he will not be convinced by you. Furthermore, his foundations are indeed too weak. He needs to be trained properly. The potential of the rushing thunder saber technique can still be dug out. Lu Suifeng thought of something and said, "That's right, sis. What do you think about the matter I told you yesterday?" Listening to the sword and communicating with it, Lu Rue revealed a contemplative expression. Since Yi-chan was recommended by Feng Feishue, and he saved Xiao Yang and Xiao Meng earlier, there should not be any problems with his character. If he wants to learn, there is no harm in teaching him. However, this listening to the sword and communicating with it is too vague. I will temporarily suppress him. Lu Suifeng looked at Xiao Chen's back and said, "I feel that Qingyan Peak might have a chance in this year's end-of-year competition." When Lu Rue heard this, there was a trace of melancholy in her eyes. She said indifferently, "All these years, I have always wanted to prove myself. However, there has never been a suitable successor for Qingyan Peak. I hope you will not disappoint me this time." Xiao Chun ran 30 laps for 4 hours before he finished. The first few laps were nothing much. After all, he had the strength of his physical body. Even if he did not use his essence, there was no pressure. However, after running for a while, Xiao Chun felt that something was wrong. There was definitely some special material under the dueling ground. He felt that his stamina was being depleted very quickly. Chapter 153. In the end, with every step he took, his bones felt like they were going to fall apart. He breathed like a bull, and every step he took was extremely arduous. There were a few times when Xiao Chun felt like lying down and not running anymore. However, when he looked at the beautiful figure in the middle of the field and saw the expression in her eyes, he could not help but feel proud. I must not collapse in front of her. That would be too embarrassing. When the final lap was over, Xiao Chun finally heaved a sigh of relief. He did his best to suppress the urge to collapse. He took a deep breath and sat down cross-legged, entering a state of cultivation. When a person was tired and their body reached its limits, entering a state of cultivation would allow them to bring out their full potential. In the past, Xiao Chun understood this principle. However, there was no one to supervise him, so he had never entered such a state. Now that he had this opportunity, there was naturally no reason for him to give it up. The purple thunder divine incantation slowly circulated in his body. When the essence circulated once in his body, it seeped into his skin, flesh, and bones. Xiao Chun felt a sense of relaxation that he had never felt before. His body felt extremely comfortable. The sweat on his body slowly evaporated into white smoke. Lu Rue stood at the side and saw all this. She revealed an apologetic smile, and a look of reminiscence flashed in the depths of her eyes. It was like she was looking at herself from the past. After a while, Xiao Chun slowly stopped circulating the essence in his body. He opened his eyes and happened to meet Lu Rue's gaze. He smiled gently and stood up. Xiao Chun said indifferently, "Elder sister Rue, you can teach me now, right?" Lu Rue smiled gently. "Not bad. The saber technique you used earlier should be the rushing thunder saber technique. I practiced this saber technique when I was young. However, it did not suit my style, so I gave up on it." A look of doubt flashed in Xiao Chen's eyes. Lu Rue practiced the rushing thunder saber technique before? This was very strange. Didn't Feng Feishue say that the saber technique came from the Heavenly Qin school? Seeing the doubt in Xiao Chen's heart, Lu Rue explained, "Don't be too surprised. Aside from some inherited martial techniques, the Heavenly Saber Pavilion has most of the saber techniques in their collection. I once gave up on the saber technique because of its style. Let me ask you now, what do you think the style of the rushing thunder saber technique is? Do you think it suits you? What is the style of the rushing thunder saber technique?" Xiao Chun had never considered this question before. Even more so, he did not consider whether the saber technique was suitable for him. However, after practicing the rushing thunder saber technique for so long, Xiao Chun had some understanding of the style of the rushing thunder saber technique. After thinking for a while, it was not difficult for him to answer. Fierce and fast, imposing and forceful. It is like a gushing river. After it is unleashed, it will flow unceasingly, advancing forward with an indomitable will. Lu Ryue nodded and said, "It looks like your understanding is pretty good. However, the words you used earlier were to describe the characteristics of the rushing thunder saber technique and not its style. Style is the last sentence. Move forward with indomitable will and never retreat. Taking a step back is the difference between life and death. Putting yourself on the edge of death to fight and forcing yourself into a dead end. Do you think you're suited for this style?" Hearing this, Xiao Chan felt as if a bolt of lightning had struck him. It was as if he had been enlightened. Some of the problems that he had been unable to figure out in the past suddenly became clear. In the past, he always felt that his understanding of the rushing thunder saber technique was lacking something. Today, he finally understood what he was lacking. What he was lacking was that kind of decisiveness, the kind of overwhelming decisiveness to not retreat even in the face of death. However, am I really suited for this style? Xiao Chun could not help but ponder this question. After a while, a resolute look flashed in Xiao Chen's eyes. He thought of the past and said seriously, "I understand now. I'm suited for this style. Even though I'm still lacking now, I will not give up on it in the future." Lu Ryue smiled faintly. "I feel that you are not suited for it. When we exchanged moves earlier, you actually wanted me to let you have one move first. You wanted to take advantage of the situation. That is definitely not the style of the rushing thunder saber technique." Xiao Chan asked doubtfully, "However, you have already broken my saber technique. How can I not retreat? That is impossible. If I were to face an opponent of equal strength or a similar cultivation realm, I would definitely not retreat. You are really stubborn. The strength I used earlier definitely did not exceed that of a martial grandmaster. If you don't believe me, you can try again." Lu Ryue's pretty face was filled with smiles. She had an eager look on her face. When Xiao Chan thought of the situation earlier, he smiled embarrassedly. "I think it's better not. I'll just believe you." Lu Ryue felt it was a pity as she said, "Never mind. I will not tease you anymore. It is too early to tell you all this. It is normal that you do not understand. You should practice the 8 basic saber techniques first." "Let me see." Xiao Chen revealed an embarrassed expression. "I don't think I have learned the basic saber techniques before. When I was young, my family only required me to learn the basic palm techniques and fist techniques. The basics of the saber and the sword were optional. At that time, I did not think of practicing the saber, so I did not practice them." When he was young, Xiao Chun was unable to condense his martial spirit. He focused all his attention on it and did not have the time to practice the basic saber techniques. Later on, after Xiao Chun successfully condensed his martial spirit, he did not pay attention to the basic saber techniques because he learned too many things. Although he did not dare to slack off when he cultivated, he did not practice the basic saber techniques. Lu Ryue felt a headache coming on. "Sui Feng, come and die." Lu Sui Feng, who was practicing the saber at the side, stopped what he was doing. He quickly walked over and asked, "Sis, what's the matter? I was defeated by this fellow. Come and teach him the 8 basic saber techniques. I will give you 1 day. I will check on him tomorrow." Lu Ryue rubbed her head, feeling a headache coming on. "I will take my leave first. I will check on him tomorrow." "That's right, don't remove the metal block in his hand." After Lu Ryue spoke, she left the place. Lu Suifeng looked at Xiao Chun and asked in disbelief, "Yi Chun, have you really not practiced the basic saber techniques before?" Xiao Chun countered with a question. "Is that important? I really have not practiced it before." Lu Suifeng smiled bitterly. "I really have to hand it to you. Fortunately, you did not enter from the outer sect. The basic saber techniques are the foundation of all saber techniques. The Heavenly Saber Pavilion has a rule long ago. If one has not practiced the basic saber techniques to the small perfection, one cannot learn any martial techniques. Thus, people like us, as well as those cultivators who want to enter the Heavenly Saber Pavilion, have to practice the basic saber techniques to the small perfection at the very least. Most of them would practice it to the medial perfection. Only a few people would persevere and practice it to the great perfection, like my sister." Xiao Chun did not expect the basic saber techniques to be so important. He could not help but ask, In that case, what realm have you practiced the basic saber techniques to? Lu Suifeng smiled helplessly. I do not have the perseverance. I just reached the small perfection, so I stopped practicing it. Let's not talk about this anymore. It is not too late for you to practice it now. Xiao Chen nodded. As he spoke, he was about to remove the piece of metal in his hand. When Lu Suifeng saw this, he quickly stopped him. Xiao Chen could not help but say, "Don't tell me you are really making things difficult for this brother." Lu Suifeng had a serious expression as he said, "I am really not making things difficult for you. You're able to practice the rushing thunder saber technique to the point where it sounds like thunder. This proves that you have put in a lot of effort. Even in the history of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion, not many people have been able to do this. My sister thinks very highly of you. Otherwise, she would not have given you pointers on some of the styles of the rushing thunder saber technique." The rushing thunder saber technique was created by a saber emperor. Although it is only a superior grade, profound, ranked martial technique, its potential is limitless. If you really want to improve further, you have to practice the basic saber techniques to the great perfection. If you want to learn it in a short period of time, aside from putting a lot of effort, there is no shortcut. When Xiao Chen heard this, he could only stop what he was doing. Lu Suifeng started to explain and demonstrate the basic saber techniques. The basic saber techniques only had 8 moves: sweep, hack, push, scrape, sweep, chop, and pierce. They were also known as the 8 basic saber techniques. Since it was a basic saber technique, it was naturally easy to understand. Xiao Chen only needed to look at it once to understand it. After that, he started to practice by himself. Because he had 100 kilograms of metal strapped to his body, every movement was very difficult. Lu Suifeng shook his head continuously at the side. Do not move your feet carelessly. You have to raise your arms higher. Do not stop when you're sheathing your saber. When Xiao Chen started to practice, he discovered that there were a lot of rules and regulations. There were clearly 8 simple movements, but he kept making mistakes. The morning slowly went by like this. During this period, Lu Suifeng continuously gave pointers. Occasionally, he would demonstrate it himself. He did not show any signs of impatience, causing Xiao Chen to feel very touched. It is time to eat. Elder brother Suifeng and elder brother Yichun. Xiao Meng's sweet voice came from the dueling grounds. Xiao Yang and Xiao Meng were carrying food in their hands as they slowly walked over. When Lu Suifeng saw this, he smiled faintly. Let's stop here for the morning. Don't listen to my sis. Back then, I spent 2 years practicing the basic saber techniques to the small perfection. It is impossible to grasp it in one day. Xiao Chen wiped the sweat off his forehead and nodded to indicate that he understood. The 8 moves of the saber were the foundation of all saber techniques in the world. As the saying goes, no matter how it changed, it would not deviate from the original. Since the Heavenly Saber Pavilion stipulated that one had to learn it to the small perfection, there would naturally be a reason for it. Xiao Chen was able to understand this point. Xiao Meng personally made lunch. First, she took out 2 bowls of porridge and placed them in front of Xiao Chen and Lu Suifeng. Afraid that Xiao Chen would not understand, she said, "This is the rules set by elder sister Ryue. After a large amount of exercise, you have to drink a bowl of porridge first. It will nourish your stomach before you can eat the main course." When Xiao Chen heard this, he smiled faintly. He thought to himself, this girl is quite meticulous. According to the diet of earth, there is such a saying. Putong. Just at this moment, Bai suddenly leaped out of the spirit blood jade on Xiao Chen's chest. After it came out, it looked at Xiao Meng with its large, watery eyes. What a cute little fox, Xiao Meng revealed a pleasantly surprised smile. Lu Suifeng glanced at the red jade pendant on Xiao Chen's chest and revealed a strange expression. He said, "Is this the spirit blood jade?" Xiao Chen nodded. He had not let the little fellow out for the past few days. Earlier, when Bai smelled the food, it strongly requested to come out. After Xiao Chen interacted with the people here, he found them to be kind-hearted. So Xiao Chen did not stop it. "Is there any more porridge?" "This little fellow is hungry," Xiao Chen said as he looked at Xiao Meng. Xiao Meng smiled and nodded. She took out a small bowl and filled it with porridge before handing it to Bai. Bai revealed a cute smile on its face. It rubbed its head happily against Xiao Ming, causing her to laugh gently. Chapter 154. After they finished their porridge and had lunch, Lu Suifeng pulled Xiao Chun to the side. If I'm not wrong, your little spirit fox should have the bloodline of a six-tailed spirit fox. Xiao Chun nodded. Is there a problem? Lu Suifeng said seriously. If there is no need, do not bring this little fellow out of Qingyun Peak. As the saying goes, do not reveal your wealth. Yi Chun, you should understand this. Xiao Chun felt it was strange. Could it be that there are no rules in the Heavenly Saber Pavilion? Lu Suifeng shook his head and smiled bitterly. Naturally, this Qingyun Peak is a pure land. However, the Heavenly Saber Pavilion is filled with all sorts of people. It is not the pure land that you think it is. The strong preys on the weak. This happens every day. Xiao Chun frowned slightly and could not help but think about Lu Chun and the other outer disciples. If the Heavenly Saber Pavilion is filled with such people, then Lu Suifeng's words are really thought-provoking. After lunch, Bai left the dueling grounds with Xiao Ming without any conscience. Xiao Chun knew it did not like to stay in the Spirit Blood Jade. Since there was no danger in Qingyun Peak, he did not bother with it. Yi Chun, I have something to do in the afternoon. I cannot accompany you. Sorry. Lu Suifeng said apologetically to Xiao Chun. Xiao Chun nodded. Lu Suifeng did not impatiently guide him for the entire morning. He was already very grateful. There was no need to force him to continue guiding him in the afternoon. Furthermore, the 8 basic movements of the saber did not require any guidance. When Lu Suifeng saw Xiao Chun nod, he smiled and said, You are a good friend. I will take my leave first. Remember not to remove the metal bars on your body. If my sister sees it, I will be in trouble. Seeing Lu Suifeng leave, Xiao Chun smiled faintly. He was not in a rush to practice the basic saber techniques. He warmed up his body and waited for the food in his body to be completely digested. Xiao Chun started to run along the dueling grounds. He relied on the strength of his physical body to slowly run. After jogging in the morning, Xiao Chun had already felt the benefits of cultivating after his body reached its limit. The effect was several times better than usual. After a while, Xiao Chun slowly ran 5 or 6 laps. This time, he could clearly feel that the rocks on the ground seemed to have a mysterious suction force. With every step he took, he would expend a lot of energy. This feeling was a little familiar. After thinking for a long time, Xiao Chun finally remembered where he had encountered this feeling before. Back in the Sage Remnant in Savage Forest, Xiao Chun had exhausted a lot of essence with every step he took toward the stone platform that towered into the sky. There was a huge difference between the two. One absorbed physical strength, while the other absorbed vitality. However, they both achieved the same result through different means. With every step he took, he would immediately consume a bit of energy. It was just that he did not know if the two were related. Sweat slowly covered his forehead. Xiao Chun wiped it away. He could feel his stamina being depleted. Gritting his teeth, Xiao Chun continued to run forward. Round after round, Xiao Chun ran tirelessly step by step. Relying on his tenacious willpower, he endured the boundless loneliness. In the vast dueling grounds, he ran forward courageously. Run, run, run. I have not reached my limit yet. I have to continue persevering. After running 30 laps, Xiao Chun felt slightly dizzy. However, he knew that this was not his limit. Just like that, Xiao Chun ran 50 laps before he slowly stopped. He resisted the urge to lie down immediately. He slowly sat down cross-legged and entered a state of cultivation. He slowly circulated the purple thunder divine incantation. Essence slowly flowed through the various meridians in his body. It was unknown when, but Lu Riyue was already standing there quietly, watching Xiao Chun silently. When she saw Xiao Chun's desperate appearance, it was like she saw her younger self in his eyes. Because the older generation had left, the originally bustling dueling grounds became very quiet. However, she still dragged her young body and ran continuously, step by step, just like Xiao Chun was doing today. Enduring the boundless loneliness and relying on his tenacious willpower, he finally made it to this stage step by step. The essence passed through the meridians and entered Xiao Chen's flesh and bones. That numbing feeling came again. The sweat on his body evaporated continuously, giving off white smoke. The cells in his bones, skin, and flesh started to undergo this intense activity. Under this extreme state, his physical body was continuously tempered by the essence, becoming stronger. After a while, Xiao Chen opened his eyes and got up to stretch himself. A series of crackling sounds came from all the bones in his body. Every crisp sound made him feel energized. "Elder Sister Ryue, why are you here?" Xiao Chen heard footsteps and turned his head to take a look. He discovered Lu Ryue, who was still wearing her tight-fitting long robes, slowly walking towards him. Lu Ryue smiled faintly, revealing a gentle smile. She perfectly displayed the charm of a mature woman. That brat Suifoam always goes to Jade Maiden Peak in the afternoon. "I was worried, so I came to take a look. You should have learned the 8 basic movements of the saber, right? Show me now." Xiao Chen nodded and drew the lunar shadow saber with a huang-dang sound. He focused and calmed himself down. Xiao Chen took a step forward with his right foot, and the saber created a strong wind as it swept through the air. This was the first move of the basic saber technique, sweep. The saber paused in the air for a moment. Xiao Chen stepped forward with his left foot and brought his legs together. He shouted and chopped down with the saber. This was the second move, chop. The instant the saber descended, when it reached the bottom, Xiao Chen did not take a step back. Instead, he pulled the saber up. This was the third move of the basic saber technique, draw chop, sweep, hold, chop, and pierce. Xiao Chen executed the remaining 5 moves together with his footwork without stopping. Although it was somewhat shaky, he managed to do it in one breath. Lu Ryue nodded gently at the side. She smiled and said, "Not bad. At least your basic movements and footwork are correct. However, you still lack some momentum and consistency. However, you just have to take it slow. You can use the 8 basic movements of the saber to exchange moves with me. I will slowly guide you, and you will understand in the future." This basic saber technique was refined by our ancestors after tens of thousands of years. It is very important to a bladesman. When Xiao Chen heard that Lu Ryue wanted to use the basic saber technique to exchange moves with him, he was overwhelmed by the favor. A medial grade martial saint was willing to exchange moves with him and teach him the basic saber technique step by step. No one had ever received such treatment before. "Elder Sister Ryue, this is not appropriate. It is just a basic saber technique. I can practice it myself. There is no need to waste your time," Xiao Chen rejected. An impatient expression flashed on Lu Ryue's pretty face. She said, "Stop wasting time. As a man, can you be more direct? Being so wishy-washy is even more annoying than a woman." Xiao Chen did not dare to disobey. He sheathed his saber and stood opposite of Lu Ryue. Only then did Lu Ryue reveal a smile. "That's more like it. I will make the first move." Right after Lu Ryue spoke, a cold light flashed. The small saber in Lu Ryue's hand moved forward and pierced towards Xiao Chen's chest. This was the basic saber technique's pierce formula. It was a simple stab, but Lu Ryue's aura was like a rainbow. No one dared to underestimate it. Xiao Chen remembered their agreement. He could only use the 8 basic saber techniques to break this move. He quickly executed the pull formula and swung his saber upwards, blocking Lu Ryue's move. This was not a true battle. They were just exchanging moves. Thus, there was no killing intent. During the exchange, Lu Ryue would occasionally give Xiao Chen pointers, telling him of his mistakes. Then, she would make her own move and demonstrate the correct saber technique to him. Her expression was extremely serious. Xiao Chen's talent was high in the first place. After exchanging moves, he improved very quickly. Slowly, he found a feeling. The days of Qingyun Peak passed peacefully like this. Lu Ryue insisted on coming every afternoon to exchange moves with Xiao Chen. Aside from practicing the basic saber techniques, Xiao Chen would take time out during the day to run a few laps around the dueling grounds. Every day, he would push his body to its limits. Then, he would immediately start cultivating tempering his body at his limits. Now, Xiao Chun could easily run 100 laps around the dueling grounds. In the middle of the night, Xiao Chun would lie on his bed and read the flowing cloud scripture that Lu Chen gave him. He would sort out the meridians in his body that were in a mess due to cultivating the battle sage origins. This was one of the rare peaceful days he had since he left Mo City. He could systematically sort out the martial techniques and knowledge that he had learned. Normally, if he had any questions regarding martial techniques, he could ask Lu Ruyue for guidance. She would always give him a satisfactory answer. Although his cultivation realm did not increase by much in the past few days, his combat prowess had reached an unprecedented peak. In the blink of an eye, 2 months passed just like that. Xiao Chen's basic saber techniques had made great progress. He had already reached the peak of small perfection. After practicing the basic saber techniques to this level, Xiao Chun could clearly feel that when he used the rushing thunder saber technique again, its might was much stronger than before. Furthermore, he was able to integrate it better. He was just one step away from the fusion that he had not completed in the past, and he would be able to reach a perfect state. In the end, there were still some unfortunate matters. Even when he tried to ask her about learning listening to the sword and communicating with it, he was rejected by Lu Ruyue. She said that it was not the right time yet. Since he had a favor to ask, Xiao Chun could not be too forceful. The most important thing was that Lu Ruyue had treated him very well in the past 2 months. On this particular day, Xiao Chun woke up very early as usual, preparing to rush to the dueling grounds. The instant he opened the door, he discovered Lu Ruyue, Xiao Yang, and Xiao Meng standing outside with smiles on their faces. Xiao Chun asked with some doubts, "What day is it today? Don't we have to go to the dueling grounds? Why are you all here?" Lu Suifeng giggled. "You are right. There is no need to go to the dueling grounds today. I was afraid that you would not be able to meet anyone and miss us. So I came to tell you this news in advance." Lu Ruyue smiled warmly and continued the topic. "Today is the day the Supreme Elder of the Divine Saber Camp is giving a lecture at the Heaven Ascending platform. That is a true Supreme Elder. He is a martial monarch. So I decided to go with all of us." A martial monarch Supreme Elder. A fervent light flashed in Xiao Chen's eyes. His calm heart actually started to fluctuate. However, this was not surprising. Martial monarchs were already the strongest cultivators in the Great Qin nation.